I just did the little parka strut in my computer room. Leave that in. How's it going, everybody? It's critical. I don't know what episode number this is. It's in the 70s at this point. Really, it should be over like 100 at this point, I feel like.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
Mongo, joined as always. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've done like what, like, maybe not over 100, but we'd be a lot closer to 100 if those special reports were just numbered episodes.
Yeah, we
Um,
fucked up.
yeah, we did. That was my fault. I'm sorry. I'm Mongo, joined as always by my co-host Liger Busa. We don't have any particular topics on this show anymore, unless one of us gets like really down bad to talk about one specific thing. But how are you this week? I didn't have a better
No,
segue than that. Sorry.
I'm not too bad. I think I'm just gonna title the episode WWE 2K25 since it just came out and I played it. And
Title it
yeah,
Liger Busa hates WWE 2K25.
I don't hate it. I mean, for me to
Moderately
hate
dislikes WWE 2K25.
for me to hate it, I would have had to hate like last year's game because I mean it's pretty much the same. Um, but like the big problem with this game is that it's broken right now in a lot of areas. And that is a big problem. Well, we'll just get right into it. So,
Oh damn! I'm not gonna talk about how I'm doing this week. Okay, all
oh,
right.
sorry, how
Go
are you
ahead.
doing?
No,
No, go
you're
ahead.
good. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Boy, where to begin? I mean, so I tried to well, the main thing I did really was showcase. But before I went into showcase, I tried out My Rise, and I got like the little cutscene. Actually, I actually accidentally went into it, and I was like, "Oh shit, I don't want to do it now." So I backed out, and then went into showcase. Um, Showcase is, I mean, basically it is what it is. There's videos by Paul Heyman between every match, and the intro is so long that I skipped it and then just skipped all the other videos because like I don't need to see this. This is boring the hell out of me. Funny, the intro shows him with the Samoan SWAT team, and I was like, are they like alternate attires for the head shrinkers? I don't remember reading that, but they aren't, which you think they would
No.
have done, and they could have had him as a Paulie Dangerously as a manager, but they didn't. Um, he's got this is extreme as his theme in the game, so that's something you can add to the jukebox, which is cool. Um, Showcase is what it is. They don't have the the real footage in there. It's just cutscenes now. The first match is you don't play it. Well, you kind of do. It's WrestleMania between Cody and Roman, and some of that is done in like first person, the cutscenes, which is really like disorienting. I found, and I think the only thing you do in that is like the choke slam by the Undertaker onto the Rock, and that's it. So then it goes into the actual showcase, and I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, there's not really many changes. One of the things that they have done this year, which is kind of infuriating, is that some of the objectives have are time based. So you have
Which
like
was in the older games for those that remember.
yeah, and it sucks. It's
Yeah.
like it because it'll be like a lot of them are like perform a combo on your opponent, and if you know combos, then there's a good chance that they're gonna get reversed. So you'll do like two strikes before you're about to do the third one and finish it in time, and then they fucking reverse it and you're down and you can't get up and shit like that. It's super annoying. The worst match in the mode, and I've seen a lot of other people say this, is the women's Money in the Bank ladder match where you play as Tamina. If it wasn't bad enough that you play as Tamina, it's so fucking frustrating because it's so chaotic. They've changed the ladder system now where instead of the circle and you have to press it in time, now it's button combinations. So you'll reach for it and you press like B, A, whatever it says, but then you'll get another combination where you're like holding onto it and you have to grab it. So it takes forever to get the title down or the briefcase, and there's plenty of opportunity for your opponents to attack you. And there's a bunch of different opponents in this match, so it's just infuriating. There was one objective I missed because I had skipped like the text because I thought, oh, whatever, it'll just tell me on the upper left corner anyway. And it said something to the effect of like damage your opponent or whatever. And the time's running down, and I was like, well, what the fuck am I really doing here? Like, it doesn't give me any details. So I failed that objective and did everything else, but didn't get everything because I failed that objective. So I went back and played it later, and what it said was, make sure Natalia doesn't get back in the ring. And I'm like, well, it didn't say that in the top left corner, so it wasn't very detailed. But yeah, that match was just fucking infuriating. Everything else is pretty basic. The last match of the showcase mode is a gauntlet against 10 other members of the Bloodline, and it's in a special arena. It's a SmackDown stage, the old SmackDown Fist stage, but instead of the fist, they've got the finger pointing up for the Bloodline, which whoever came up with that idea is that's a pretty good one. And the lighting on it is all red, and they reuse the assets from the WrestleMania 20 arena, where they have the banners all around the arena. Um, they reuse those just with Bloodline members banners on top of the arena, and there's like a tribal design on the ring itself. It's a pretty cool arena. So that's showcase, and then I was like, well, I'll go into my rise now. So as I said before I went to the showcase, it started to load up. Everything seemed fine. But now I tried to go into it and the game crashes. So I restarted and it hard locks. Like it won't get past the title screen. The Steam overlay is stuck on the screen. I'm playing full screen. There's nothing I can do. I can't exit out. Nothing. So I have to fully shut off my computer and restart it. So a little bit later, I try my rise again, and it crashes again. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I check Twitter and Blue Sky and stuff, and see that plenty of people are having the same problem, not just on PC, but all platforms, where my rise just breaks on you. You can't play it. So shortly afterwards, they released a patch, but I guess my rise wasn't something that they fixed. And apparently, as of now, they're still looking into it. But yeah, as of this point, and from what I understand, this only happens if you play Showcase first. You can't play My Rise. It'll just crash the game, which is just like incredible. How the fuck does that happen? Um,
Please give us your $100 for the Bloodline edition.
I didn't get the Bloodline edition. I got the Dead Man edition, and I got a little discount on it. Um, his
You saying you stand for the anthem?
oh fuck no. I just wanted Undertaker. I just wanted Undertaker 1990, and it turns out his model's absolutely terrible. It looks hideous. He looks like Kenny Omega on the worst day of his life. Um,
Yeah, he doesn't look good.
no, it looks absolutely awful. So that's that. I can't get into My Rise, which is another thing I like to do. Like, right when I start the game, it's like Showcase and My Rise. Not necessarily that I enjoy the one of them, but it's like this. That's where you discover most things, right? And like of course the story mode to see what's going on and all that shit. So then I started playing my faction, and I played quite a bit of that. My faction name is the Ding Dongs. Unfortunately, it's not the actual Ding Dongs. Um, I played, like I said, I played quite a bit of it. Uh, it's tedious. It's the same thing over and over again. There's now a mode called World Tour, and it starts off with different cities in the US. There's like Orlando, and each one's got like they have 3 acts, and there's 5 matches in each act. So you're playing 15 matches per city. And then the Orlando one, there's like a mysterious. I didn't really read it because like it's not like the writing's interesting, but it seemed like there was like an anonymous person that's fucking with you or whatever. So you play all these matches, and it's a lot of like 6-man tags and tornado tags and stuff, and you get persona card. This is how you unlock persona cards through this mode. You get Kalani Jordan, which why would
Who?
she even have a? Yeah, she's in NXT. I don't know why she would have a persona card because like I think it's like called 2023. I can't imagine she's changed much since then. So it's like why? Um so then after that Philadelphia opens up, and of course it's the Booker's Paul Heyman. And it's very, very annoying because it's a lot of table match, tornado table match, tornado extreme rules, 6-man tag. and then another Tornado Extreme Rules, and then another Tornado table match. And this goes on for 15 matches. It's like basically the same thing over and over again. Some of the matches, like the lights are turned out. I mean, you can still say, but that's the deal with the match. I don't know why. I guess maybe that's a reference to like the lights going out in ECW, like a surprise in the ring. But there's no surprises in the ring. It's just matches. And there's some conditions in matches, like you can't use your bluffs or whatever they call them in this. So the persona unlockable for Philadelphia is Rob Van Dam 97. It's just the same Rob Van Dam model. The
Of
attire
course.
is the attire is something he wore in 1997, but it's probably like the least interesting attire he wore around that period. It's not like the one he wore on Raw with like, like the WWF logo, or they would have converted into like a WWE block logo or anything. It's nothing interesting like that. It's just kind of a crappy attire. And his theme song is the pre One of a Kind Invasion theme song he used, Damnation, I think it was called. So that's that persona card, and then you open up to Dallas, which I don't even have anything. Like, you need legends to go through there, and I don't have anything yet. And then there's like Boston, Chicago, and I've still got New York and LA locked. So I started playing Chicago, and of course it's booked by CM Punk. And I guess they think like CM Punk's Bill Watts or something, because the matches you can't do dives from the top rope, and this is what CM Punk wants apparently. And also you can't go on the outside, and you can't use like any of your bluffs or anything. But this was actually probably the most fun because it was just straight up matches, like 6-man tags, 8-man tags, tag team, singles matches. It was just straight up. Like there was no tables or extreme rules, which were getting like extremely tedious. This was just like singles, and I was like, okay, easy enough. And then Boston, which is Cena, and you get a persona card for him. I haven't played it, but I looked at it and it's like triple threat, extreme rules or something, and then another one, and then a war games match. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to play these matches. Um, so for Punk 2, you unlock his 2010 model, which was in last year's game as well. So a lot of the Persona cards are just the same as last year apparently. There doesn't seem to be that much new at all. I got Ted DiBiase as a manager, which is interesting because Ted DiBiase is not a playable character in the game anymore. So I thought that was weird. Um, I mean, other than that, I've checked out some other things. The third person camera for entrances is pretty cool. There's also like a spectator camera where you can watch from the crowd. Third person camera during matches. I only did it during like the performance center training tutorial. Seems disorienting, and I don't want to use that at all. It also changes the controls a bit, where like to pin you have to hold like RT and down on the right analog stick for some reason. Like a lot of things seem to be on RT now when you go into the third person mode. Um, the ramp cam, which was introduced last year and was like a really cool feature. Obviously, it reminds you of like older games, like the original SmackDown games and like the Aki games and stuff. Isn't this good this year? Because last year there was like a wide view. The camera was pulled back. This year it's much closer. The ramp cam is like pretty much like right up to the ropes, and it makes it hard to see when you got a referee standing on that side of the ring, or you're in a tag match and the tag team partner is facing the left side. If you're wrestling on the left side, you can't really see what's going on. So that's frustrating. It's also available in all different modes now. If you remember last year, it was you couldn't use the ramp cam for stuff like war games, and now you can. But also in war games, it's hard to determine where you are at times because it's pulled back from like the top of the cage, and there's 8 people in the ring at once, and it's sometimes hard to find yourself in that situation. So yeah, the ramp cam kind of sucks. Um, and then I started checking out universe mode, which is something I've never really bothered with. I still get the issue where like 2 members of the LWO on one side and then another member is on the other side with a random tag team partner. That still happens, and it's so frustrating because the game should be smart enough that stablemates should be together. They did add a new feature this year where you can have like subunits underneath stables. So like for example, you'd have the LWO, but then you've got Cruz and Wild as a tag team underneath that, which is kind of neat. You know, it indicates that they're a tag team instead of like just having random partners from a stable like it was previously. I would seem to break that way anyway. So yeah, I'm playing Universe, and you know, it's not different. I mean, it's pretty much the same, but it's okay, I guess. I mean, I was doing a few pay-per-views and stuff, and simming a lot of it just to see what happened, and it was okay. And then I get to the Royal Rumble. So the first match on the Royal Rumble is the Women's Royal Rumble, and it automatically selects the participants, and it's like, and I'm playing with like a current roster because there's no like mods out right now and stuff, and like the Legends roster is limited. So, and it's got like Sensational Sherry and like different versions of the same wrestler, like Becky Lynch and stuff. And I was like, I don't want that. You know, I want, you know, individuals, no duplicates or anything like that, or anybody that's deceased or no longer in the company or whatever. So I go to change the participants myself, and I don't know if this is what broke it. I would certainly hope not, because it doesn't make sense. And then the match starts, and I'm sort of like not really paying. It's sort of background noise, like I'm checking my phone and stuff. And I noticed Lita's on the outside, and I was like, huh, I didn't even notice she got eliminated. I also noticed she's not disappearing. She's just stuck on the outside. And then again, I like my attention is on my phone, and then Jade Coggle's on the outside next to her. And I'm like, okay, so it's glitching, and these models are eliminated, but they aren't disappearing. So I'm like, all right. And I'm starting to wonder if like, is this a ramp cam thing? Because I'm using ramp cam, and maybe in general you don't really see that side of the ring, so they're exposed there now and it's fucking it up. I don't know. But I'm like, okay, now I've got to watch to see why these models are getting stuck. And Becky Lynch is in the ring, and she just leaves the ring through the middle rope like a normal match. And then it says Becky Lynch is eliminated. And now she's stuck on the right side. And this happens multiple times through the match. So there's like 5 women now stuck on the outside. And I'm like, huh, the entrances have really started to slow down. And we're not at the 30 entrance point yet. So it's like Charlotte and Chelsea Green. So Charlotte eliminates Chelsea Green, and then Kiana James starts to come out. Charlotte leaves the ring. And then Kiana James slides underneath the bottom rope and eliminates herself. So now there's 7 women on the outside, and because Chelsea Green was eliminated, there's 1 spot left. So Bianca Belair comes out. There's 7 women on the outside. She starts going to all 4 corners and starts posing. And I posted a little video of this on Twitter on Blue Sky. And she does it again and again and again. And what I thought was happening is exactly what happened. The game can't load any more entrants because there's 7 women on the outside. You can only have 8 in the ring at once.
And they haven't despawned, so the game still thinks they're active, even though the fucking AI dumbed themselves out of the match.
Exactly. So there's no
That's a
way
good thing Acclaim's coming back.
there's no way for the match to end because she's not the 30th entrant and it can't load anymore. So I've got no other option than to exit the match. I couldn't believe it because Royal Rumble has been in this game for years, and there's no like improvements to the Royal Rumble this year at all. How the fuck is it broken now? Like, how is that possible? You've had this mode in the game for years, and all of a sudden it's broken now? I don't know. Like, I mean, we talked about it last week, and we know it's not going to happen, but holy fuck, do they need to start rebuilding from the ground up? Because this code is old, there's still some ukes in there, and they don't seem to know what the fuck is happening with it half the time. I haven't used any of the online stuff outside of my faction, which I was kicked off a few times early on, but I haven't had really any problems with it since. But I've heard like the servers are kind of fucked up. The creation suite is really fucked up apparently. Like there's issues with images and things being transparent, or not being transparent that are supposed to be and shit like that. Sounds like creators are having a hell of a time. I saw someone that was like, "Oh well, guys, of course you have to wait for like the patch," and it's like, I
We didn't have to before. Some of us are old enough to remember when, like, day one, the game had to fucking work.
yeah, you see, there was this period, and this is the old days back when we had GamePro and EGM, and and this is how we got our gaming news and stuff, and games were on cartridges, and sometimes it was CDs, and they came out. In some cases, maybe they weren't finished, but it was determined that, okay, enough time is gone, they need to come out now, right? And that was it. You would judge the game for what it was because there was no fucking way to update this thing. That's all there is to it. The game's out. You can review this. Now it's, hey guys, don't review it. Don't be too hard on it because we have to wait for a patch because the game is released and it's not fucking finished. It's so fucking dumb, and people shouldn't put up with this. It's unbelievable that I'm getting frustrated now. It's unbelievable that people are like.
It's 20 years of conditioning, man. There's like a whole 2 generations that grew up with like, I got to download a patch and it'll fix some things about the game.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't. I mean, it was that long ago, but like 2 decades ago, if you shipped a game that didn't fucking work, that was what killed your studio, not a game shipping and it fucking not selling 5 million copies.
yeah, and it's insane how the business has changed, and it's just so incredibly fucked up. But
Yeah,
that's my experience with the game so far. And
well, claim.
if they do patch out all these bugs and shit, let's say they do, it's still not much different than last year. So I wouldn't
I saw the
recommend.
chain wrestling on, like, I saw a gameplay video
Oh
of it, and I
right,
sent
yeah,
it to you. This looks like if you just mini gamed the fucking chain wrestling that's in Attitude in the ECW games.
yeah. I can. It is kind of robotic. It's not as I felt the wrestling in Fight Forever felt a lot more natural. And
Yeah,
of course, in this, you've got all these fucking meters on the screen and push left, push right, push up, push down. And yeah, it does feel very robotic. Funny enough, I haven't had it in the matches I've played, only in the tutorial. But I've seen the AI do it, and it's just like, yeah, this isn't interesting. It doesn't look right. Um, yeah, it's as I was saying, it's very much the same game as last year, as it pretty much always is now, right? It's a yearly release. So unless you really need to play Showcase or My Rise, or you're super interested in the DLC and you don't have access to PC where that shit can be modded into the previous year, then I don't see a reason to get this now. I mean, if you want to play Showcase or My Rise, then your best is just to wait for the game to go on sale. But me being who I am, when the game comes out, I like need something to do. I need to play it. So I played the Showcase, and I can't play My Rise right now. Um, but yeah, it's what do you even see anymore? Like I said,
I
it needs to
saw.
be. Sorry, go ahead.
I saw footage of like a minute or so of the Rocky Maivia Hunter Hearst Helmsley match, and
Right.
Rocky Maivia has Delirious's Cobra stretch. And I don't know who decided that needed to be in the modern WWE games, if anybody in WWE does that. But even if they do, why the fuck does 1997 Rocky Maivia have that move?
Who
And
knows? I feel
people
like
got really excited this week about like, oh, New Jack's in the game. Okay, cool.
yeah,
He's not going to fucking play anything like New Jack because how do you translate New Jack to a wrestling video game anyway? And much less, how do you translate him to this game? He's gonna have fucking power bombs and German suplexes and a bunch of shit he never did. And somebody's gonna hear this and go, "Well, that sounds cool." No, I'm tired of these fucking characters. Like, there's 9 million animations in these games, and everybody's the same fucking move set. It's stupid.
yeah,
Why does Stone Cold still have power bombs and German suplexes? Find me one fucking instance of him doing either of those moves as Stone Cold. Find me one instance of him ever doing a power bomb.
I don't
Like,
remember. The only time he probably did German suplex was against like Angle, and that was it. Um, yeah, the move
it's
sets are
like
still
Sting
fucked up.
having the tombstone as a signature because he did it as a counter instead of
There's
like as a fucking regular move.
there was somebody I was playing as. I think it was CM Punk has the Owen Pile driver. I think it was Punk. I can't remember, but it
He
was just
has it
so
in
out of.
2K24.
Yeah, it's like what? Um, yeah. Actually talking about that Rock and Triple H showcase match. So they fixed the logo. In the screenshots and stuff, it had like a more modern Raw logo. They fixed it on in the game. The big Raw letters to me still look too small. Um, that arena, which is Thursday Raw Thursday, is using assets from the Hammerstein Ballroom Arena. They're just
It's the
repainting.
Hammerstein Arena. They just rotated it 90 degrees and put some
I think
banners up. That's all it
I,
is.
it feels a bit smaller, but that also may be because like the house lights are down in that match. Um, Also, like, it's funny because like they use the transition for Raw as War, and like on the arena select, it's shown with the Raw's War logo. I might be wrong, but I don't think they had switched to. Well, no, because they have the Raw block. It hadn't switched to Raw's War at that point. This was in February '97, and I don't think it had switched to Raw's War until after WrestleMania, right?
It
Um,
might have transitioned before me. I don't remember what the don't they rebrand it Raw as War when like they have the really bad fucking rating for the Owen and Davey Boy match? That feels like right
wasn't
in
that
my memory.
wasn't that the night after Mania? Because that's when Brett comes out and he's
No.
like, "Hey, oh,
No,
okay."
no, no. The European title final, that's March 1st.
Oh, okay, okay. That all right. I don't think they had switched to Raw as well then yet. So I
Because
might
I
be
know that
wrong.
like that's considered the turning point where like, oh fuck, we need to do something, and that's as people have told the story, Russo gets the booking gig and we get the slow descent into Crash TV.
Yeah. Well,
But we'll go over the season pass really quick.
yes.
New Wave Pack, May 2025, Motor City Machine Guns, Julia, Stephanie Becker, special celebrity guest to be announced. June, there's the Duncan Destruction Pack, Abyss, the Great Khali. So at least those guys, they're big enough they could have played basketball. And 3 NBA stars to be announced. I'm guessing Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson because they've appeared at WWE shows. I don't know who the third one could be.
It should really be
Um,
like Shaq, Dennis Rodman, and somebody else.
the Fearless Pack is New Jack, Jordan Grace, Penta, Bull Nakano, and a special celebrity guest to be announced. And then you have the Attitude Era Superstars pack, and one of these things is not like the others. You have D'Lo Brown, the New Age Outlaws, Mark Henry, and Victoria. I saved the
Yeah.
one that wasn't like the others for the last because not an Attitude Era name at all.
Well, unless you just call her Ho, because she was like the Godfather's Ho during that period and like Hardcore Champion or some shit. Um,
And
one of
then there's
the
the
sorry, yeah, there was one more. I forgot.
the Saturday Night's Main Event pack where you get Jesse Ventura, Paul Orndorff, Tito Santana, Junkyard Dog, and Sid. Sid Justice specifically. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and guess he's going to have the Psycho Sid theme.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I'm going
Um,
to go out and guess that like Tito Santana's not going to play like Tito. Orndorff's going to not play like Paul Orndorff. I know people are really excited to get New Jack. It's going to be cool seeing Abyss. Which, by the way, there's your fucking there's the smoke to the fire of Kyle Peterson saying there might be a TNA line coming from Mattel.
hmm,
Um, I've I don't care. I might pick 2K25 up when it's on like sale. But here's another problem. It's a 110 gigabyte install. The only way I'm buying that game is if I get an SD card for my Steam Deck. And if I'm going to install a game with a fucking 3-figure gigabyte install, it's going to be fucking Baldur's Gate 3.
right.
I'm not wasting 110 gigabytes of my SSD on a fucking WWE game that doesn't. If I want to play this gameplay style, there's nothing 2K25 has that I feel like I need. If I need to play a modern WWE game, I have 24, and I don't even really feel compelled to play 24.
Right.
So,
Um, just for
kind of where does that leave us?
one of the special guests or whatever is KSI. What's the status? Found game fails for him.
Oh
So
boy,
yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, uh, I don't know, dude. I forgot to
man.
say I played the underground match as well. Um,
Oh boy.
there's people around the ring. There's not much to it. I mean, you can knock people on the outside and they fall out the ring. Cool. The people on the outside, because there's so many models, they're not interactable. They're when you walk towards them, they're just transparent and you walk through them. So that's a
It's 2025, man. How the fuck?
yeah. I thought it was like a last gen thing, but from what I've seen, it seems to be on current gen as well. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, they're gonna push this game out. I mean, as we know, every year. I mean, that's what they've been doing, right? But there needs to be a significant change because how can this be acceptable when you're going to like PS6 and shit like that? You know, still
Because
using these.
they finally hit on a game that's good enough, and until the sales slide or the reviews slide, we saw it. They were content to have Ukes crank out that same shitty game every year until Ukes got fed up and Visual Concepts were like, "Oh, we can do this," and then
Yeah,
2K20 happened. And 2K20 was like the worst selling mainline WWE game ever.
I mean,
And 2K24 is allegedly the best selling WWE game ever. So
and it's not like 2K20. Obviously, there was a hilarious amount of bugs and shit like that. But at its core, the gameplay is still what they're using now.
yeah.
So it's like, so you're looking at it and you're just like, when the fuck are we gonna get something new? And as we just talked about, like, probably never. And that seems absolutely wild. You know, it's when you're dealing with so many bugs and shit when you start up the game. How can they not be looking at like we need to make some big changes? Like
It's
part of me hopes
selling.
that, yeah, I know. I wish that in secret they were working on something new and just being like, okay, this is the year that we shut down what we're doing now and we start off brand new with this new thing that we've built from the ground up. But do I see it ever happening? No, because of
Oh,
sales and
I can guarantee you right now they're building something from the ground up for the PS6, and they're going to slam all of the Ukes code into it.
oh yeah, of course, yeah. And it just seems like it's such a jumbled mess now, right? Like there's so much old code, and I don't know if that they can't figure it out or what. But there's like, it's like I brought up, I had made this reference before we started the show of like Stan Lee slamming the Hulk into the Batmobile in the episode of The Simpsons. It's like you're slamming these two things together, these two different developers, and you're getting this monstrosity which doesn't really work in a lot of areas. And it's just like, how can you keep pushing this forward until the whole fucking thing just breaks? Like it's gonna crash completely at some point, and then they're really fucked, and people are gonna be like, I can't do anything on this bloody thing.
Well,
So
there's also a chance in the next few years, like that license goes somewhere else. But
it's WWE. I don't see it.
I mean, they came really close. Like they were negotiating while still in the deal with 2K with EA. I
Yeah, I
anything's possible, but also, yeah, WWE doesn't really like to leave licensing partners. They were with Jax forever, and that relationship ended badly. They were with THQ forever, and I mean, if THQ wouldn't have gone under, they'd still be with them. The one instance of them dumping a licensing partner that I can think of in my existence on this planet is Acclaim. Well, no, Playmates also.
yeah.
But yeah, speaking of, fucking Acclaim is back and Jeff Jarrett's on the board. Ain't he great?
This is what the fuck. Did you read
So
the quote from him by the way on that like
I did about the involvement in the 16-bit games. Yes,
yes, and his involvement with TNA Impact and yeah.
I think he was involved. He was in the game. He did some voiceover
He
work.
was in the game. I don't think he did anything besides that. But yeah, yeah, it said that he said he was in the 16-bit um Acclaim games, which was not true. I think the only reason he's
So
involved with Acclaim now is so if that they make another wrestling game, he can't be removed this time.
so when this got announced, like three different people hit me up and were like, "Oh, guess we know who's publishing the new AEW game if it happens." Ha ha ha. And so I did my due diligence. I reached out to all three of my friends that are working in AEW games, and one of them had a very interesting quote, which was, "I don't even know what's going on with AEW games right now." One of them was just kind of like, "I haven't heard anything about a new console game in like months." The third one was like, "I gotta be honest, I don't think another console game's coming anytime soon. But when I woke up and read this, first thing I thought you were gonna message me about it, and second, I was like, oh yeah, no, this would make all the sense in the world because Jeff still works with AEW."
Right.
I and there are people that are like kind of hyped to see this, and it's like Yeah, here's the thing. It's not Acclaim. Somebody fucking bought the IP. Tell me if this sounds familiar. And this is just going to be them publishing like indie games and maybe some mid-sized games. So at least, they're close to being a spiritual successor to what Acclaim was, but you're not getting a new All-Star Baseball. They whatever contracts they had signed for that Legends of Wrestling 4, those are long fucking done.
Yeah.
So like whatever. I mean, maybe they are the publisher for the next AEW game. I have a feeling Tony Khan probably didn't like those Acclaim games so much growing up, but
I don't think he played games, to be honest.
no, he 100% strikes me as the
Although
kind of person that would play a video game, get absolutely dusted in like 45 seconds and just scream.
they did use a bullet with a name on it for MGF and Hangman last night from whatever SmackDown versus Raw it was.
Oh seven.
Yeah. I've seen people throw around the idea that Acclaim would publish UPW, which would be hilarious to have Acclaim and the Yaki logos in the same game.
You
It
know
would
what?
just
No,
be
listen, hold on. Sam, if
funny.
you're listening to this, Gimbals, if you're listening to this, you need to make that happen. And here's my reasoning why. That might be the only publisher that leaves you alone to do whatever the hell you want.
I mean, it's
They
a
might
good
be the only
point.
publisher
Yeah.
that will infuse a bunch of fucking cash and you can do whatever you want. And also, you have a very rare opportunity here. How often do you have the chance to be the only good Acclaim wrestling game?
Yeah.
I
That's kind
mean,
of
we
interesting when
could.
you put it that way.
There are days where I go, Legends Wrestling 2 is not that bad, and then I'm like, no, 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 it is. But at the very least, you have the chance to be the first good Acclaim wrestling game since like Raw for the 32X.
Yeah.
So like that's 30 years. Yeah, you have your opportunity here.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something? Um, Also, I was listening to Jeff Gerstmann went over this on his podcast, and he was running down a list of like acclaimed games because the another thing they brought up in the press release was like previous IPs and stuff, and they really didn't own anything. Like they had a
no,
few things that they might have owned, but it was like publishing Mortal Kombat, which obviously they don't own, and all these other titles that were from licensed to different companies now. So when you talk about previous IPs, I mean, you don't really have anything to work with.
no, Acclaim. And that's why I specifically mentioned All Star Baseball. That was the one thing people talked about with Acclaim towards the end was they at one point All Star Baseball had an argument for being the best baseball game on the market. And by the time Acclaim went under, it no longer had that argument because there was a little game called MVP Baseball.
Mm.
But yeah, like it's cool to see somebody pouring money into that idea, but not going to amount to anything. Like whatever. Like okay, Acclaim's back. Can we get fucking trying to think of like another shit? Can we get Midway back? Somebody want to revive Midway?
But what do you have for? I mean, WB would be the ones to do that, right? They own the Midway IPs.
Well, they own the IPs. I don't know that they. I think they bought Mortal Kombat. I don't know if they actually bought Midway.
But even if you
But
brought like
also,
Midway back, it's like still don't have any of that stuff. So you
you can
know,
bring back Narc.
I suppose
That's a game.
it is indeed a game.
I bought a facsimile issue of Uncanny X-Men. I think it's 268 Madripoor Nights. There's an ad for Narc in that, and seeing the ad for Narc on the NES is one of the funniest things ever because you think about how like heavily censored games had to be on the NES, and you think of the premise of that game.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Do you remember
Um,
the remake?
so seeing that made me remember the remake, but I never played the remake. I wanted to because I had what was it, Midway Arcade Treasures 2, which had the original arcade version.
Yeah.
And God, Midway was really doing everything to avoid the ship going down, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
I I was talking with somebody about this, and they'd read NBA Jam the book, which I would recommend you buy.
Oh, I need to
Like
get that.
it's
Yeah.
the bit about WrestleMania the arcade game is hilarious. Is like sometime in late 1993, a giant figure showed up in the Midway Studios and refused to do anything until somebody bought them a bottle of Jack Daniels, and it was the Undertaker. Just imagine him showing up in full fucking gimmick, like I'm here to do your video game, but I ain't doing shit. I ain't taking a bump. I ain't throwing a
now he
punch. And I'm doing a choke slam.
now he wouldn't do anything unless they hire his wife as well. Apparently.
Ugh. He has a type, doesn't he?
Yeah. Did you hear that, by the way? That they wanted to do the second season of that LFG, and like they wanted him back, and he's like, "Oh, how about you hire Michelle McCool?" So she's replacing Mickey James on the second season.
You want to talk about a fucking downgrade in every conceivable way?
Uh huh. Hey, they'll all start
Um,
doing the Faith Breaker in NXT.
bleh. um, we got the announcement of the highly anticipated Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remasters this week,
Yeah.
and I had one major concern with this, and it turns out it was everybody else's major concern, was how intact is the career from Pro Skater 4 going to be? It turns out like not at all. Um, Instead of the open world free roaming, you're going to get the 2 minutes, 10 goals. There's a new game plus where it's like 2 minutes harder goals. I'm not happy about this, but also for context, a lot of those goals are from a 2002 game where certain things were done that you absolutely could not do now.
Hmm.
The pimp having you bet on the slap fight between the two prostitutes, you can't do that now. Like it's so cartoonish and like you can't. Like that's like the one big goal that I remember, but there's other ones too. And like humor was different in the early 2000s. I'm not going to make any excuses for anybody. I'm not going to say it was better or worse, but we as a society changed, and it feels like we're changing into a worse version of what we were 25 years ago.
I would definitely agree. Yep.
And I saw people hopeful we were going to get Underground 1 and 2 remasters. You're never getting that. Never.
No, those games really went into like the full on. I mean, they became Jackass, basically. That's what those
Yeah, a
games
less funny
pretty
version of
much were.
Jackass.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally have like a bunch of the Jackass crew in Thug too.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
there's 2 levels missing because I think between the 2 games there's 18 levels. There's 16 in the game, but there's 3 new levels. One of which is like a pinball level, one of which is a water park. 3 is my favorite game in the series. If this runs on the deck, which the fact it's getting a fucking Switch and a PS4 version leads me to believe it will, I'll buy it and I'll play it. I'm not as angry about the Pro Skater 4 stuff as some people are, but I do think it is a little lame that they're not doing what they can to preserve the way the game actually was. But again, a lot of stuff in that game that would not fucking fly now, and even less that would fly now in games like Thug, where you're the PI and you grind the car while somebody's like having sex. Like you're never getting Thug remade.
I
Never.
also think that Activision just isn't willing to put that much work into it. You
Oh
know,
no, no, absolutely not. Like they had the code and the unfinished 3 and 4 remasters from a few years ago, and they just brought in the team that did the 1 and 2 PC port to finish it off. Is all it was.
yeah, it just seems like they're begrudgingly put into this position of releasing this. I mean, they've got Call of Duty to make, right? So why do anything else?
Yeah. Well, also they know they're gonna make a boatload of fucking money on this. Even if
Yeah.
people are mad, they're still gonna buy it. Um, I speaking of Activision and Call of Duty, I finished Marvel Ultimate Alliance on Friday, and I got really sad that Raven Software got folded into being like a Call of Duty support dev because they, more than anybody, they have a track record of making what I think are like the best comic book games.
Mhm.
Legends 1 and 2 are like unimpeachable all-time classics. Ultimate Alliance 1 might be my favorite comic book game. And X-Men Origins Wolverine is the best example of taking a shitty movie and making like a really great video game out of it. Because they understood it's Wolverine, just do God of War, do Devil May Cry. That's all you gotta do. It's easy. Unlike, some modern studios that think Wolverine needs to play like fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know
Uh,
if you remember, but I played. I was talking about Origins a few months ago because I played it, and the settings get a little tedious going back to that village again and again. It's just like, oh, I've had enough of this place, and here we are
yeah,
again. But yeah, the gameplay is great. I mean, I also brought this up at the time too, was that I had downloaded the demo on Xbox 360 back in the day, and it's the very start of the game, and like taking that pilot's head and basically destroying it with the blades of the helicopter was like a holy shit moment. And it was something that the demo I would go back and play again and again just for shit like that. And it still holds up, it's still very fun. But yeah, it's a shame that everything has to be so similar these days and we don't have more unique experiences like that. I mean, it was sort of like a God of War type game, right? But I think even that style of gameplay now feels different than obviously God of War isn't like that anymore, right? So
no,
everything
it's
today's
like
got like
bootleg
a
Dark Souls.
yeah, everything today's got like a same feeling as opposed to then or as opposed to playing that game, it's like, oh, this feels so much different than anything else that's around right now.
Speaking of God of War, next Saturday, the 15th, there's a God of War 20th anniversary event. And allegedly, for real this time, guys, that might be where the God of War remasters get announced. If that's the case, I humbly have one expectation: leave the fucking gameplay alone. Just make the game look prettier. There are I would like the original God of War to be a little bit more forgiving with checkpoints and like save points. I also understand that might make the game a little too easy, but under no fucking circumstances should you change the actual beat by beat gameplay of 1 or 2 or 3 or the PSP games. Like, I've seen people like, oh, it'd be great if they made God of War 1, but it plays like 2018. I hope you fall down a fucking escalator. The whole point of those games is they were fast, violent, and cathartic. And people can talk about like, oh, toxic masculinity or whatever. Like, that's a really like simple view of the character. The thing about it is Kratos was not a good person, but he had some really fucked up shit happen to him repeatedly, and he was justified in being pissed off at a lot of people. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And people just like hand wave all of that because like, haha, little ghost white man yells at people and has sex with women and kills people. And that shit annoys me. I don't need the first game being retold. I don't need it being fucking reframed from a gameplay perspective. Just make it look nicer, and that's all I fucking ask.
No, what you'll get is Kratos in Fortnite if he's not in it already.
Well,
That's your
we
big
have a
announcement.
mutual friend that might be the person that designs them if that's the case.
Oh,
I I don't know. I just when I see people saying like I want this game from 20 years ago, but I want it to play like a modern game. There's approximately one good example of that, and it's the RE4 remake. And the RE4 remake is not so different from how RE4 played anyway. Like there's some
yeah.
big changes, but like the like nuts and bolts of it are still there because the nuts and bolts of RE4 are in most third person shoulder fucking camera games over the last 20 years.
Hmm.
It may actually be the most influential game of all time because like look at how much shit has copied it since then. Everything from fucking Uncharted to Batman, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, true.
God love it. Um, there's some action figure news we can get into. Um, like weirdly, a lot of it, I think. So Friday, if you're in the U.S., on Walmart's website, the Great Muda Monday Night War Ted DiBiase Build-A-Figure wave goes up for pre-order at 10 a.m. Eastern. Ultimate Edition Steve Austin. I know you're like locked in to buy the Awesome Truth and Triple H box set. That also goes
Oh
up
yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, I absolutely cannot wait.
What's that shit for, bro?
Little Jimmy, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he's probably Big Jimmy now. He was a little Jimmy like 14 years ago.
Big Jimmy, yeah.
Oh God, is that Jimmy Uso?
You know, it might be. Maybe that's been the story. We need story. We can't watch wrestling. We need the story. That's the story. Oh my god, long-term storytelling. The aura.
I saw somebody saying like a throwaway line from a Heyman promo 10 years ago was like long-term storytelling because he referenced Roman Reigns, and I'm like, you guys got to stop.
I've seen
You really got
people.
to stop doing this shit.
I saw someone yesterday call Momo Watanabe low rent talent and a Joshi with no aura, and I want to murder people.
I'm so tired of like seeing and hearing the word aura being used.
Oh,
Also,
it's the worst.
Mattel Creations revealed on, was it Thursday, I think. Um, a few months ago, a Superstars figure of Cody leaked, and we all kind of were like, "Oh, that's the first current guy in the line in a while." It turns out he's not in the main line. They did a Mattel Creations exclusive 2-pack of Cody and Dusty, and this is the NWA Dusty. They did the way they did the NWA belt. I thought was funny. A lot of people didn't. It's basically like it's just a flat rubber strap with the belt details decoed on, like how Powertown is doing it with their Remcos, which by the way still haven't shipped, and it's how AWA Remco did it as well, and it's how like WCW Galoob did it. San Francisco Toymakers WCW did it that way. Jack's WWF did it that way until they switched over to the Titantron Lifestyle belts. So like I didn't have an issue with it. Apparently, a lot of people did. Dusty has the like 1986 American Dream T-shirt. Cody's got the WrestleMania 7 Hulk Hogan poster parody shirt. These are really good. They were $50. I pre-ordered a set for me and a set for my mom because Dusty's her favorite wrestler ever, and Cody's her current favorite, and she's pretty jacked about getting those. We also saw renders of an Ultimate Edition 2007 CM Punk. He's in yellow trunks. ECW belt, Luck is for Losers t-shirt, molded wrist tape this time because it took 15 fucking years for us to get there with this line. But it was not lost on me. 2 of those heads in that render are just the Money in the Bank Punk with longer hair. Incredibly fucking lazy. We know now that the next Monday Night War Ultimate is Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner based on 2000. Red shorts, comes with the straight jacket, the chainmail. 3 sets of hands, 3 heads, big gold. He's got the Batista torso. He's also like the only wrestler I can think of that actually should have that torso. Killer fucking figure. Cannot wait to see that thing in person. And
I sorry, I forgot to mention this actually. The red shorts is a persona in 2K 25, but he's called Scott Steiner 03, and he comes with his WWE theme, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Yeah, that sucks. And then they revealed the Target Legends Ultimate Undertaker. And this is, by my count, the 5th fucking time we're getting Phantom of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
That shit was like 3 months in late 95, early 96. I was kind of like, oh, wow, they did that the first time Mattel did the figure and the mask was removable. Now I'm just like, you've done 3 different elites of it because one of them's a re-release. You did a retro of it and now an ultimate. How much longer do I have to see this fucking version of the Undertaker? Can we not just get like babyface 93 Undertaker? Is that too much fucking ass?
He must like really like that because I've noticed they've pushed it in a lot of things. I think that was in 2K at one point, and like they did that show where where they find like old costumes and shit. And I remember there was a clip that was focused on that, finding that mask. So they push it all the time for whatever reason.
It feels like a Bill thing specifically because all 5 of the figures I just mentioned are designed by him.
Yeah, maybe, but like I said too, though, that they use it in other media, so it just seems like WWE is really likes that look. I don't know. I thought it was weird at the time. Like I understand he broke his face, but I was like, I don't like this goofy mask that he's wearing.
So we also saw a retro wave coming this summer. We have Harley Race with the airplane spin action, which I think is a big misstep. They could have given him. To me, he should have just looked like the Dino Bravo zombie sailor figure. To
Yeah.
me, that would have been like Tool a new body challenge, Mattel. We have Virgil, who has the same tuxedo body that all the managers have, but it looks like he's got. I'm trying to remember whose arms these are, but they're like the generic, like fucking, like hands are kind of open. I'm trying to remember who has these arms in line before him. There's a Bobby Heenan, same body, just a different arm, same pose as the Epic. So somebody fucking copied some homework somewhere.
That's pretty funny.
And to me, the highlight of the whole thing is there's an Ultimate Warrior with the Intercontinental belt in the attire he's wearing here. Uh, I'm about to prove a lot of things people have said about me, being maybe a little bit on the spectrum. It is Warrior from the photo shoot with Brutus Beefcake from the
Oh,
1988
right, yeah.
Survivor Series when they were co-captains. And I kind of immediately recognized that when I saw it and was like, I gotta have it.
I thought you said Coke captains, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's the generic clothesline body, but he's got a new head sculpt. I think he might even have new legs because those don't look like the original Warrior legs, but they might also be. They're too close together to be the original Warrior legs, is my memory of it. I haven't looked at the retro Warrior in years because why would I bother? Why is somebody calling the house phone while I'm recording a podcast? Manhasset, New York. Chris Jericho is calling me. I
Go
have
on.
some things I'd like to say to him, but I can't say them on a podcast. I kind of thought we'd see more from Mattel, but also WrestleMania is what, in like 6 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
So that's going to be a big showing. I'm curious as to what all gets shown. Obviously, the next Coliseum Collection 2-pack, if there is a next, is going to get shown. And I mean, Paul Orndorff's back in the farm. We can get Paul Orndorff. JYD's back in the farm. Tito is also back in the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some interesting possibilities. That phone, I don't get why like the robocallers decide to just let the phone ring for a minute and a half. Jesus Christ. I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of enthusiasm about a lot of things in the Mattel line, but I also want to know that Ultimate Edition Scott Steiner, designed by Magic Olmas, which means his first two Ultimates on the Monday Night War line, he did the two things people have been screaming at Bill to do for years, which is an Ultimate Big Papa Pump from 2000 and fucking like stop making Steve Austin so goddamn skinny.
Yeah.
And people still want to bang on him about that Jazzwares line.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know if I'd have be able to get anything because I went to we have two Walmarts in the area and I went to the West one earlier this week. I walk in and like looking around and look at I went to the DC where they usually keep the DC and Marvel figures, and there was one Aquaman and that was it. There was no other DC, no other Marvel. I go around to the WWE and there's like Ember Moon and like really nothing else. And I was like, holy shit. And this was a few days after going to the other one, the other Walmart as well, where they also had nothing. I don't think we're gonna get anything here at all. It's so dried up. I mean, it was only a few weeks ago where they had a Royal Rumble display, and like the next week I went in, they were selling those for $9.99, and now there's just like nothing again. I don't know what's going on, but I see people in Ontario like, oh, I found like the Monday Night Wars figures, and they go up on the Walmart.ca website and they've sold out instantly. But like here, you just can't get anything. It's so dead.
Also, apparently that sketch Orange Cassidy figure is coming out soon. If you
All
if you
right, yeah.
recall, we saw that back at Comic Con. Have you noticed none of the other shit from Comic Con has come to fruition? The House of Black 3-pack, that's not coming out. The Sting 3-pack, nobody knows. The Guevara Matt Hardy Omega thing, nobody seems to fucking know. The Mercedes Monet was supposed to be up in the fall. It's now barreling towards the spring. Like,
Yeah.
apparently Penta has been replaced in Unrivaled 18 by Jeff Jarrett, which is crazy because Ringside has a Jeff Hardy exclusive that just dropped, and Jeff Hardy's been gone for a fucking year now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're still milking the Hardys a year after they've left tells me a lot about who Jeremy Padawer views as like the actual fucking sellers for that line. Like, no, don't do any of the current talent, and if you do, half-ass them. Make sure that the guys from 25 fucking years ago have maximum effort put in. Nobody wants the Swerve Strickland figure. They want Christian with a turtleneck and fucking soft goods jacket. Which, by the way, there's an Adam Copeland Christian Target 2-pack coming out where the two figures are basically the same figures from fucking Unrivaled 17.
Well, you don't want to put too much effort into it.
Make it make sense. And the Moxley Supreme finally dropped, and he has a leather jacket accessory that was never pictured anywhere before. So, like, oh, bonus points for adding something. But, like, that thing's on him in the box. He's going to be fucking stained. I know some people have said, like, I've had no issues with the staining, but it's Jazzwares. It's Jazzwares, and every day ends with why I guarantee you somebody somewhere is going to have a major issue with that figure being stained. And also, summer 2025 is not that far away. Osprey's allegedly the next one. Why have we not seen a render? Why have we not seen a prototype? Why is it like this stuff just drops out of the fucking sky? Because we had a Kenny Omega figure and a Ricky Starks figure also drop on Walmart's website. And the Ricky Starks is from All Out 2022, and he's on NXT now. You scare me out here. Wouldn't you have done a fucking Powerhouse Hobbs figure, given that he was always going to stick around and he's the guy that beat Ricky Starks in that match, and you haven't made a figure of him in almost 3 years or 2 years or whatever it's been, and fucking he's prominently featured on TV right now?
You're putting more thought into this than they ever do, so.
Like, here's the thing. By the time the Ricky Starks from Unrivaled 17 hits, in the previous calendar year, he will have had 3 figures released by AEW. That's 3 more figures than Powerhouse Hobbs has had since fucking like 2023.
Yep. I don't know what to say. The Jazzwares line to me is pretty much dead.
And I was talking with Wrestling Figure News about this. I have my concerns if that Supreme Osprey is even going to be good, but Magic already did their homework for them. The Kenny Omega body is right there, and there's 2 really strong head sculpts with the unmatched Osprey that they just dropped from the set with Surfer Sting, which is now sold out on Ringside, and I feel like an idiot for canceling my pre-order. But it's okay. Because knowing my luck, I would have gotten fucking Blade Runner Sting from Ringside, and I would have just cried. I would have just bawled my eyes out like a bitch. Because I didn't want that version of him. I wanted the white and blue anyway. But today's your last day to pre-order the Epic Retro Series 4. I skipped out on these. I was talking with a friend of mine, shout-outs to Mute, about this. I didn't want to jump in on those because, like, presumably there's a bunch of stuff going up for pre-order this month that I'm going to want. And as much as I think those figures look awesome and as much as I wanted to pre-order them, we're, 2 weeks in now? I'm still waiting on Zombie Sailor. I didn't want to take away the money from those figures to pre-order the Epic ones because, like, if I get those Epic ones, like, they look great. But much like 90% of the shit I buy at this point, it's like, oh, that's cool. And then it goes into my closet because I have no room to put it. Because I really, at this point, I'm only like, the only figures in that like 4.5 inch like realm that I'm displaying are my Kara Pros. I don't have any of my Hasbros on the shelf. None of my, not that I have that many loose Zombie Sailor figures, but I don't have any of them on the shelf. Actually, that's wrong. I have the Jeff Jarrett with my Kara Pro figures because he was at the Tokyo Dome once. Ain't he great? But it's the last day to pre-order those. I hope those did well. They're very good.
Yeah,
And
I would have got them if I was more financially able, but not right now. And yeah, they will just go on my shelf also. But yeah, they look great, and I'm looking forward to seeing that their next series as well. See what they've got planned.
My Zombie Sailor CM Punk did ship. Um, Unlike a lot of other people, the day my label was generated, I also got a tracking update on it. So it looks like they're getting to the tail end of shipping those out. He did post a picture of the Series 4 Ric Flair in the box, saying that they were shipping next week. Here's my current operating theory. And again, Zombie Sailor, you're more than free to prove me wrong, even though you're never going to hear this. I'm thinking he's going to wait until they get all the Series 4 out the door and the Public Enemy orders, and then the pre-orders are going to go up. One small problem with that is 7 days from now is March 16th, meaning the month will be more than half over. So, I mean, maybe before March 31st means the last week of March. But at this point, I would be fucking teasing those figures. Like, yeah, let people know Series 4 is going to ship, but also let them know what's coming next. And
Right.
we all talked about how much of a game changer the ringside stuff was. And it was like, oh my God, in stock drop, all this stuff. Like 3 days later, nobody gave a shit anymore. We're all talking about pre-orders again.
Yeah, things move so
In the
fast
moment,
sometimes.
yeah, in the moment, it felt like this is a huge fucking deal. But now it's like that model's going to work for ringside, but they've also said they're going to be doing pre-orders as well. I was talking with Wrestling Figure News about this because it was one of the cases of like ringside did this. They had their allocation, which Brian Myers mentioned on the podcast. They might not have ordered as much as they should have because they didn't know what the interest would be, which is why they sold out in 3 hours.
Right.
In Wrestling Figure News, like Zombie should do that, and I'm like, well, if he's gonna go to retailers with these, he's gonna have to fucking have like sales data because
Yeah.
you can't gauge what the 6-inch figures are gonna do off of what the retros have done. That doesn't make any sense. They're not the same thing. It's a totally
Mm.
different audience you're playing to. I was shown a screenshot from Twitter of Mitchell Craig posting the story of the Jeff figure in the box that Zombie Sailor posted, and J&J Figures have said that they've seen them all in person and they're going to be worth the wait. So if the resellers, who one of them may or may not be a Wrestling Figs Sims board legend like myself, shout outs. If they've seen them, then the majors have to have seen more than just the Jarrett.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I just want a ballpark on like when these are going up. But I don't think the first series, I don't think he should do an in stock drop. That's like ridiculous because say he orders like 2,500 of everybody and they all sell out, and there's still people that want them. You have to go back in for another production run, and then who knows when you're going to get those in? Who knows what the interest is going to be? Like, just make your money up front. For series 2, though, he should probably have a better idea. That one, I'm half and half on if I would do a pre-order on that one, but it's also not my business. I'm also insane. So this is reckless speculation on my half, but I'm looking forward to seeing that Punk figure in person. Somebody also pointed out that Larry the Dog is bricked the fuck up in figure form, and I don't know why you would look at that particular area of a toy of a little dog, but yeah, that was. I saw that like first thing the other morning. Like somebody screenshotted that from the Major Pod group, and I just sat up in bed giggling.
Apparently, they might be
What?
making a Mattel of him too, because I guess they scanned him recently.
Yeah, they showed that on the Mattel. Oh, I gotta talk about this. Fucking Fig Heel was on that Mattel Creations Revealed thing,
Oh no.
and I can't stand this motherfucker, bro. He comes off so disingenuous in everything he does. And there was something he said that like kind of had the same energy to it of the, well, it's not about being a fan of the guy, it's about the artistry, which like, why would you say that? It's so fucking stupid.
And that's what he said about
Ops
Ops Baker,
Baker.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, there was something similar that he said about the fucking Cody and Dusty 2-pack that like I was sitting in the break room at work and I had the sound up a little bit. There was nobody else in there. And I just kind of like was like, fuck you. And also, if you've ever watched the guy review figures, you're looking at him more than you're looking at the figures because the guy thinks like he thinks people are watching for him. And spoiler alert, they aren't. Um, I'm just saying maybe that's helpful advice. But yeah, I can't stand that guy. Mitch posted a 3D render of the Ahmed Johnson, Tony Norris, Grapplers and Gimmicks Regium figure. And it looks like a fucking M. Dickey model because it's a 3D model that's been kind of like painted in like ZBrush
Yeah.
or whatever program they're using. And it looks, I mean, you can't even see that much of it, but like, I I don't have the utmost confidence in Mitch doing a modern scale line. I don't have any of his figures in hand, but I do know that he's going with PVC on the retros, and that's probably fine for something with like head, waist, arms, 4 POA. You're gonna have to put down a little bit more money to make a fucking 6-inch figure. And we've talked about this a bunch. I don't know that he sells enough shit to make his money back on the retros. He's going to take a bath on the 6-inch figures, regardless of who he makes. I think.
Yeah, I agree. But let's also not forget that Rush said he was doing a 6-inch line as well. I got a
I thought
notification
those
last
were the
night.
Winnie the Pooh figures.
Oh, was it? I thought he was doing wrestling ones as well. I might be wrong. I got a notification last night and I didn't watch it, but it said Rush and then it just said Kickstarter. And I was like, no, fuck off. No. Don't tell me you're doing another one or you're trying to close one or whatever the case is. I was like, I ain't watching this shit.
And I know it probably sounds like I'm like busting on Mitch for no reason, and I don't like Mitch, and part of that is because like I don't. But he he has some interesting names signed, not legally signed, but they're signed, and I'd uh I'd like to see how these 6-inch figures turn out. But if you remember the concept art, do you remember the concept art where like the Al Snow and fucking Ahmed were both drawn over like basic Hulk Hogan figures?
Right. Well, that
I
feels
don't,
surprised.
yeah, like in the prototypes, quote unquote, he showed of the God ones at, what was it, New York Comic Con last year? They were just 3D scanned Farmer Brock elites. Like, you can't do that.
Well, he tries his best anyway. I think
And
the
he's got 4 different Jake Roberts coming out. It's like black tights from 91 when he was a heel, blue tights, heel. There's like one babyface attire, and then there's like WrestleMania 8, and like Jake has a Legends deal.
yeah, I think my favorite one is, and I don't even know if this is I wouldn't even think this is a case where like anything's been signed, but the Latuni Antonio Inoki is my favorite. Like, you can't do this thing right now because it's like, what the fuck?
So if he does like one of the mini versions of Inoki, isn't that just like literally bootlegging the Kara Pro?
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about before, it's got the lines on the arm and everything that figure would have had. That I kind of love it. I kind of just love it for like how fucked it is. Like this, there's no way this should exist, but it does.
Also, I saw the Strike Force figures that Mitch did, and I want to make a point. The Rick Martel figure having like the flexing arms so he can do the Boston Crab. That's
Yeah.
a cute idea. You can't actually do the Boston Crab with any of these fucking figures though.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, it makes sense to have them like that, but there's like no other figures you can do that with unless you've got like the whoever again is doing that like Orndorff with the legs. Unless you can actually move them like that, then no, it doesn't work with any other figure out there. Um, I kind of want that Strike Force though. I love Strike Force.
I think the Tito looks really good. The Martel looks a little silly, but it's another instance of I say I want something and I'll potentially buy it, and then I don't do it.
Yeah.
I wish I had a running count of how many times I said I was going to buy something and then didn't do it on this fucking podcast.
I remember at one point you said you were going to stop buying wrestling figures.
Yeah, I'm getting very close to it, honestly. The zombie figures are like the one thing. I go back and forth on the Mattel stuff. Like, I really want that Austin, but like, do I really? I really want that Scott Steiner, but do I really?
I mean,
Like, where am I going to put it?
I really want those Mutas, but god damn, like my only option is gonna be to order online, and I don't like that idea.
Yeah, that's like the other part of it. And also, like, Storm Collectibles was at the Sumo Hall. And by the Sumo Hall, I mean, yes, that one from New Japan Pro Wrestling. They had a little setup of Storm Collectibles items and Storm Arena items. My big takeaway from the non-Storm Arena stuff is, goddamn, they're making Final Fight, because we
Yeah.
saw Cody and Haggard. Now these are the 1/10 scale, like, expensive figures, but they look amazing. Uh, Haggard looks exactly like what you would expect and want a Haggard figure to look like. Cody looks great. We also saw the Street Fighter 6 1/10 scale Zangief. We saw the 1/10 scale T Hawk, which is approximately 6.5 feet tall. Not really, but that's a goddamn huge toy. Um, and we saw their 1/10 scale Dictator, which, this isn't apples to apples, but good lord, this smokes the Jada Toys version. But speaking of smoking the Jada Toys version, we saw the Storm Arena Street Fighter Alpha 3 Sagat, and Jesus, this figure looks incredible. I said this to somebody, and it's really mean to say it this way, but you look at the Storm Arena figures of characters that also have Street Fighter 2 figures from Jada, and those Jada figures honestly look like shit by comparison.
Ooh.
Like, and I've been on this show saying those are the best action figures on the market for like close to 2 years now. Think about how good these figures have to look for me to say that. The detail and the sculpting and the paint applications and everything, it's a completely different fucking level. And like, I love those Jada figures. I got Kyle, Caillou, Guile, DJ, and Cammy. Um, I got them recently. Took all of them out of the box just to kind of fuck around and see what like the articulation and range of motion was like on them. And they're great, but then you look at like this Sagat compared to the Sagat that Jada Toys just started soliciting pre-orders for. What was it, like the middle of January? God, that was like 6 weeks ago now. And that Sagat looks like a bootleg compared to this. It's crazy the level of like the gap in like quality with these. And nobody's had the final Storm Arena samples in hand. We don't know what they're going to be like, but just the eyeball test, these are like unbelievable figures. And I did notice that all of the Storm Arena figures have gone up to $30 base price on Big Bad Toy Store now. So I'm kind of expecting Sagat to clock in right around 37, $38, which, yeah, that's $7 or $8 more than the Jada Sagat, but it's, look at it. I'll pay $7 or $8 more for quality, because he's going to come with basically all the same accessories that the Jada figure has, but also probably like a figure stand so you can pose him doing the tiger uppercut or the tiger knee. And like, I'm looking at the Sagat right now, and there's like, they did like a paint wash on the tape, which like Jada Toys didn't do. There's like all the different shading on like the actual like skin and everything. Like, this is a fucking ridiculous figure. And they showed off Dan, and Dan looks great. Obviously, a lot of parts reused from Ryu and Ken. They did show Chun-Li. She has no articulation currently, because I'm assuming out of the three that they showed, she's probably the furthest one out from release, if I had to guess. There was a Darkstalkers figure of Morrigan from the Storm Arena shown. And the name of the other character escapes me right now. It might be Lilith, was the other one that they showed. I haven't played Darkstalkers in a long time. So, like, Morrigan's the only character I immediately recognize, because she's in other games as well. But Mr. Lee said on Instagram, to somebody in the comments, that all of these Storm Arena figures are due out this year. I am very skeptical that's going to be the case, but I'm looking forward to seeing if they can actually hit that release cadence, because if if they're able to drop 5 figures in that Alpha 3 line in 1 year, that goes a long way to proving like they're committed to at least attempting to complete that roster.
Yeah, I think
But
Jada needs to get away and do a line that Storm doesn't have access to, if possible. I don't know what that would be, because obviously Mortal Kombat isn't going to be available, and that would have been perfect for them. But if they can pick up something else that would just be like unique to them, or maybe something that hasn't been done for a while, I don't know what that would be, but it'd be nice to see them succeed and have their own thing, as opposed to like Storm coming out and like, taking all their attention away, basically.
I thought it was funny a few months ago when the Storm Arena figures were first shown. One of the Toy Migos guys was like, "Oh, they're doing this because Jada showed up and ate their lunch." And like 5 months later, it's like, well, how do you feel about that comment now?
You think it probably was
Like,
reactionary though? Like,
100%. It was,
yeah.
yeah. Storm was not going to do a 1/12 scale line until like, look, when Jada Toys came out, people started flooding the Storm Collectibles page on Instagram with comments of like, Jada
Mhm.
Toys is $25.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're making Fei Long needs $100. I can get this one for 25. And again, like the Zombie Sailor ringside thing I said last week, people were like, this Fei Long's 25 and it's good enough. And good enough is like selling that figure way short. That Fei Long might be the best Jada figure.
Yeah.
Like it's a really close race, but that is a fucking tremendous figure. But like, yeah, 100%. This was not something Storm had in the pipeline until people started like, oh, look at Jada Toys. And Jada Toys might have stoked the flame by liking comments about how these are better than Storm figures, which, let me be perfectly clear on this. There is not a single Jada figure that has a 1/10 Storm equivalent, although they do cost 4 times more in some instances. There's not a single one of those Jada figures that I think are better than like the Storm 1/10 scale ones, but that's also you're comparing $25 to $100.
Yeah.
Not apples to apples. But yeah, like I said it to somebody like they should just do Street Fighter 3. Like wrap up 2 as fast as you can, because depending which version of Alpha 3 Storm does, they're going to have access to every single Street Fighter 2 character. So, like, yeah, right now the comparisons are kind of limited. And in the case of characters like Chun-Li or Cammy, it's different costumes. But Honda doesn't look that different. Zangief don't look that different. Blanca don't look that different. Boxer don't look that different. Dictator's a lot bigger in fucking Alpha. But like most of those characters are like the same designs. So like I would do 3 because like beyond, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Akuma, most of those characters are unique to like 3 and 4 because a
Mhm.
lot of them ended up in 4 later on. And like, would I rather Storm Arena do everything? Yeah, but like if Jada Toys made a Hugo, like that's day 1 pre-order. I'm not canceling it no matter what. But yeah, you said it when I sent you the Sagat and Dan pictures. Like, I kind of feel bad for Jada because like the Street Fighter figures were the big like the coming out party. Like, look at us, we're like an actual like we're a viable like action figure company now. And 2 years later, Storm Collectibles is like, oh, that's cute. Here's our shit. It's
Yeah.
a good time to be a Street Fighter fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad because he set that price point, and the figures were really good when they came out, and then he has the established, what was an expensive brand coming in and saying, well, fuck, we can do that too. So yeah, it does suck. I mean, it's taking over the territory, so to speak. So yeah, Street Fighter 3, if they could do those, or I don't know, just something else that would separate themselves from Storm, something unique. I don't know what that would be off the top of my head, but like maybe some other video game licenses or something that they could do. Um, to just separate themselves from Storm, I think would be cool. Doesn't even have to be fighting games, and there's maybe if they could do like a Metal
Yeah,
Gear or something like that for that price, but that'd be super sweet.
Especially with like Delta coming out, if we could get
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the various characters from MGS3 in action figure form, I would. This isn't one of those things I would say I'd buy them and then I don't. I would be on this podcast talking about how I am financially destitute, but at least I have all 17 versions of Snake that they've released.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, there's got to be something else out there. I mean, you'd think companies would be willing to work with them now based on what they've done with Street Fighter. So
I
hopefully something
mean,
works out for them.
Resident Evil's right there.
That's actually something I was going to bring up too. Actually,
Like the like sicko mode part of my brain is like Saturday Night Slam Masters,
oh, that would be a dream, wouldn't it?
but they wouldn't scale with the WWE figures. But I also wouldn't give a flying fuck. I've
Yeah,
wanted those figures for 30 years now. Give me what
that'd
I
be.
want, somebody, please.
I wish.
But like, yeah, there have been people asking Jada to do like RE figures from the start. And June was asked about it, I think, on one of those Toy Migos streams. And he was just like, we're hoping that like what we're doing with Capcom opens up more licenses to us because they're doing Mega Man as well. And those Mega Man figures are awesome. I just don't have as much of an attachment to Mega Man as I do to some of the other Capcom series because that is kind of a little like I was born in '91, but like by the time I'm putting my hands on a controller, we're at like Mega Man X, and those games are a little bit difficult when you're a small child. I wasn't really small, but I was a child.
What
At
about?
least give me that.
I'm trying to figure out what else Capcom has that they could maybe do. I had something that I was thinking of, but it's not Capcom.
I
I
mean,
don't
as
know.
far as like mass market appeal, you could probably get Resident Evil figures into Target and Walmart pretty easy.
Probably, and like the classic designs for like Jill and um some of the other characters that I keep completely forget off the top of my head, they would probably sell pretty well.
An RE4 line would do gangbusters, like original or remake. That's like RE2 would go stupid as well. Nemesis from RE3
Yeah,
by them would look fucking insane. I would say Final Fight, but Storm.
yeah,
Unfortunately for them, Storm. But they didn't announce Final Fight for Arena, which I thought was interesting.
yeah. That's kind of strange. Hopefully, that's not too far off though. I'd buy a Meg Haga for sure.
It's also kind of funny though because there's a more than a couple Final Fight characters that wind up in the alpha games.
Mm,
Guy, Cody, the samurai looking dude that they had to change his name to, was it Sodom in the US, but like the
yeah.
international version is called Katana instead of Kitana.
Hey,
Um,
maybe Jada can do World Heroes.
there's like any Capcom IP I'm thinking of that isn't Street Fighter or RE. It's either like Storm has that license, or this is so incredibly like niche, nobody would touch it except me.
Yeah, and I think as
Like
far as like
Onimusha
IP,
would be dope. Who's fucking
yeah,
buying that shit?
and yeah, and I think as far as IPs from like other Japanese developers or even in general, I think what we hit on was Metal Gear. I think that would be a good idea for them if possible.
Yeah, I think Metal Gear is an easier sell to retail if Delta does well though,
Yeah.
because like one of the things the producer of Delta said is like there's like a generation that doesn't know what the fuck this is.
Mm,
So like remind everybody and then you make your merch. I mean, I was gonna say KOF for Jada, but Storm.
exactly. Yeah.
Literally in the Storm Arena line too. I had that big of a brain fart. I
Pit
mean,
Fighter. There you go.
yeah. Oh my god, that game's a trip. Didn't Acclaim publish the home version of that, or am I insane for thinking that?
Probably. That sounds like something Acclaim would do.
There you go, Jeff Jarrett. Bring back Pit Fighter.
Maybe they
Because I can't
didn't
imagine.
actually, because like
Did they not?
maybe because they did Mortal Kombat, right? So maybe they stayed away from Pit Fighter. I can't remember.
Isn't Pit Fighter a Midway game, actually? I don't remember any of this shit. I'm sure this is riveting audio as I Google this.
Let me see.
It was developed by Atari Games and published by Konami. Home versions were published by Tengen, so maybe that's a Konami IP?
Wow.
Wait a minute, hold on. When the fuck did these console versions come out?
Um,
Oh, I misread this. A sequel was planned for 93. I was like, 93 seems a little late for an arcade game that came out in 90.
it was included in Midway Arcade Treasures.
That
Interesting.
okay, so that's where I've played the arcade version then.
Yeah. The sequel to Pit Fighter. Shame we never got that, right?
I don't remember anything about this game, honestly, except maybe hearing that like the game kind of fucking sucked.
Yeah, I remember playing it in the arcades and as a little kid and not thinking much about it at all. Definitely wasn't Mortal Kombat.
Wait a minute, the ZX Spectrum version was released as part of a Super Fighter compilation with Final Fight and WWF WrestleMania. That's the UK only release that had Bulldog,
Right.
Hogan, and Slaughter on the cover.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that's not a bad that's not a like a horrible fucking package of games, depending on
That's
how bad the ZX Spectrum ports yeah, the other two games are.
yeah. Yeah, it's a funny combination, but not bad.
Yeah. Oh man, I have the urge to re-download that Capcom arcade deal on my Switch and play fucking Saturday Night Slam Masters today.
Yeah, I still have that Capcom arcade treasures thing. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy this game because it's cheap and like maybe they'll be like, huh, someone's buying this, let's make a new one. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen, unfortunately. It's funny though how like, there's references and stuff and for obviously for Mike Hagar, like because he's still around, you get little nods and stuff to Saturday Night Slam Masters and but they've never done anything with it. It sucks. But maybe they shouldn't have made that sequel, you know?
It's weird though because I didn't know that that sequel existed till like 2002.
I want to see maybe it was the original Slam Masters I played in the arcade. Did the second one did that get a release outside of Japan as far as arcades go?
Yeah, because there's an English version of it.
Oh, okay, so maybe that's what I played because I remember going to like the local fair and playing that, I believe, because I was like, this is not Slam Masters, this is different. So I think that's what it was. But it's the second one's not really as much of a wrestling game as the first one, so it kind of lost its appeal. So yeah, it's a shame that they didn't do more of those characters in that license. It's very much the case with like that and pro wrestling on the NES because like you know people our age grew up with those characters, right? If you're a fan of those wrestling games, like Fighter Hayabusa on the Amazon and Starman and Slam Masters, you've got like Biff and Rasta and all those guys, and they're very recognizable, because obviously on NES, the that was a very popular game, and Slam Masters is the Capcom style, and I can picture them in my head straight away. And I always think that like I used to remember years ago someone made those custom NES Pro Wrestlers figures. I was like, oh damn, Nintendo could do something like this, and Capcom could do something like this, and they could let those characters live in some way. And I know there's been like little references I said before here and there in both Nintendo and Capcom products, but if they could just do a bit more of them, like not even necessarily make a new game, but like release figures or do something with those characters that you still have, and not let Rush Collectibles make bootlegs, that would be cool.
Yeah, it's strange to me that pro wrestling just kind of lives as like an eternal virtual console Switch Online type game.
Yeah, because like I feel like everyone knew like Starman and Amazon especially, right? From
Yeah,
like
like
from that
they're
time
super
period.
recognizable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and like I just I don't know. I don't like seeing old wrestling games die. And there was a point in like '08, right before Street Fighter 4 launched in '09, a console version. Obviously, the arcade version was already. Um, but Capcom had a poll on their website for like what other series would you like to see revived. And Slam Masters didn't win that poll. I think Dino Crisis did, but it got a lot of fucking votes.
Mm.
And like, listen, that was the era where Capcom was like, let's do Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix and have the comics guys do the artwork. And then the game keeps getting pushed back because Jesus Christ, that's a lot of frames of animation to draw. But like, people were shoveling like $15 HD revivals of games onto XBLA and PlayStation Store. They could have shat out a low effort version of Slam Masters, and the bar would have been so low for me and a lot of other people that like it probably would have just been a game we liked regardless.
Yeah, and for those who hadn't experienced the original when it came out, I think because it's Capcom, a Capcom fighting game, and similar art style to Street Fighter, I think it would have got a lot of new eyes on it too.
Yeah, and I understand why that game's not included in stuff like the Capcom Fighting Collection, but it fucking should be.
Yep.
Like, what reason do you have to not drop that as part of the fighting collections that they do?
It's weird. It's like it's the bastard stepchild that they sometimes feed fish heads to, but most of the time don't recognize. And it's like, why? Like, even if you don't like wrestling, even if Capcom doesn't like wrestling these days, like it's still a pretty good, damn good fighting game. It's got some cool characters. Do something with it.
Yeah, and it's like it's a unique game in the sense of like even the first one doesn't play like a traditional wrestling game. It plays more like Final Fight, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Like Final Fight with pins.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd come to that conclusion when we reviewed it because I don't think I had that in my brain. But like just sitting here right now, like no, this functionally is just a beat 'em up in a wrestling ring. It's part of the
Exactly.
reason why I like that game so much.
Yeah. That's
And
essentially what it is.
I've wanted an Alexander the Greater figure since I was like 3 years old, and nobody has fucking saw fit to give us that.
I think
And like,
when you're a kid and you see like you play fighting games and stuff, and there's characters that like might be based on wrestlers and stuff, but you're not really sure. I think that was the first one I was like, yeah, this is definitely Vader, no doubt.
yeah, no, like the first time I saw him, I was like, oh, I know who that is. And then he
Yeah.
comes out with like a fucking rip off of the Mastodon helmet, and it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's definitely who that is.
That's really cool. Yeah, they did a great job with that entrance game stuff as well. Was the details that they put into it, they didn't have to, but they did. And that was awesome.
The entrances with like the lasers and like not everybody has unique theme music, but like there's like
I think
theme
they all
music for
did,
people
right?
too. Huh?
I think they all had their own theme, right?
I thought Greater shares a theme with somebody else. I might be wrong now, actually.
I think it did because this was like do 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 do
Yeah.
do. Yeah, and I think he's the only one in the game that actually has a song. Like I could be wrong too, but I could have sworn that they all had their own themes.
My memory was like the big fucker that looked like El Gigante in like a fucked up Canadian tuxedo might have had that, but like, no, I'm pretty sure his theme was, yeah, so everybody had unique themes, I think, actually.
For some reason, I thought I don't know why I thought this at the time. Maybe it's because I was playing it in '96, but I thought, and maybe it's because I had heard that the fake Razor Ramon was called Titan, and I think he was called Titan. So I thought he was supposed
Titanic
to be like
Tim,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
When I
thought,
was little, I thought that was supposed to be Giant Gonzalez.
yeah, and like his short shorts and stuff, and Scorpio. I didn't realize he was based off Tenebris, like the mask anyway. But when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, that's Scorpio, right? So obvious. I thought
And like,
Jumbo was Hugh Morris. I know that.
I don't think I ever equated him to anybody, but like him allegedly being based on Earthquake makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, like the Japanese names for most of these characters are way fucking cooler. Like King Rastamon is missing IQ Gomez. Like that's
Yeah.
sicko mode. Titanic Tim is Titan the Great. Great Oni is Mysterious Budo.
I want like a buddy anime of Rosta and Blanca hanging out. That'd be cool.
I want to say Blanca is in King Rastamon's ending.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, makes
It's been
sense.
a long time since I've beaten the game with him. He's always accompanied by his pet monkey, Freak. It's a great name. Alexander the Greater's Japanese name is Sheep the Royal, which is incredibly fucked up.
Sheep the Royal. Interesting.
Also, like the Hulk Hogan dude in the intro of the first game that you only see if you beat the game on hard, and then you never fight him, and then he's just like he's a regular dude in the second game.
Yeah,
That always disappointed me.
that intro was hype
Like,
though.
oh yeah, no, for real.
The music, dunna, 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 and then he rips his
And then,
shirt.
yeah, like
Hell yeah.
that. The first time we loaded that game up on the Super Nintendo, which I remember, I think I told the story when we reviewed the games. It's been a while since we have those, so I'll just repeat it because why not? My cousins came home. They went to, I think it was Meyer in Lima, or it might have been the mall. I want to say it was Meyer. And they came back with that game, and like we all fucking gathered around like the fucking TV in the game room. And like the first time we saw the intro, everybody was like, "Holy shit!"
It's like that like a bloodstorm on The Simpsons, you know, when it like blows them away when you put the cartridge in. It's like that's what the intro was like. It's like, holy shit, look at this thing. This is cool.
Yeah, God, games used to be so much cooler, man.
Yeah, they certainly did, and now everything's broken and too expensive and full of bullshit.
Yeah, well, we're only like 4 weeks away from the Switch 2 reveal. That'll be something, I guess.
Yeah, it should be cool, but I don't know, dude. Gaming these
I don't think
days
we're
is
getting Slam Masters 3.
no, I don't think so. And video games make me sad these days more than they make me happy, unfortunately.
Honestly, playing Ultimate Alliance, which I actually I got basically to the very end of that game the other night on the way to and from the comic shop. And I got to tell the story about my comic shop trip because that's the thing I'm doing every week now. Um, so my books had come in. I ordered Hellspawn Complete Collection and Astonishing X-Men Modern Epic Volume 2. And then I was like, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to order a bunch of books with those. So when I get in there, I don't spend any more money. I'm just like, I'm here for my shit. See you later. Didn't work like that. Because I got in there and one of the guys who runs the store was like ringing somebody up. So as I'm prone to doing, I wander a little bit and I spent like another $60. And sitting here right now, I can tell you every single issue I bought, like the just regular like one issues, I've read all of those. I read all of the Astonishing X-Men book. I've read 3 issues of Hellspawn, which is like a deeply, deeply bleak and fucked up book. Brian Michael Bendis is a freak. Um, I haven't. Oh, I got the last 2 compacts I needed. American Vampire and Harley Quinn. I have not opened either of those yet.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I have those as well. I'd need to read those too.
Yesterday my in-stock trades order from like 2 weeks ago got dropped off, which it was a bunch of the Ed Brubaker like crime books. Like I got Scene of the Crime, the first 3 volumes of Criminal, the Fade Out, and then the one book that stands out as not being Ed Brubaker's at all is a book called Bitch Planet, because I heard about that on one of the Image Comics documentaries, and I was like,
H Planet.
I gotta know what it's about. The name is very presumptuous, but I need to know what
Feel
it's all
like
about. And I read Scene of the
70s
Crime.
What is it? What is Bitch Planet?
I've not opened it yet.
To me, it sounds like it's
We're
gonna
gonna
be like
find out.
70s sexploitation film or something.
I don't know. I do know it's written by is it Kelly Sue DeConnick? She's married to Matt Fraction, who is going to be writing Batman starting in September.
Oh,
He
cool.
did a book called Sex Criminals with Chip Zdarsky, which I read the premise of, and it sounds fucking hilarious. So I need to read that.
I'm gonna look
Which
this up.
feels weird to say about a book called Sex Criminals, but like read the premise of the book. It's very funny. It's not about sex crimes so much. Um, it's about criminals that have sex, and they have a very funny thing that happens when they orgasm. So you
Oh,
can read the synopsis of the complete collection to kind of glean the rest. But Chip Zdarsky is writing Captain America. I think that run starts in July. And as soon as I'm able to, I'm gonna have that put on my monthly pull list at the comic shop because I've read some of Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil. I haven't read the whole thing. It's been on my bucket list for a minute to read the whole thing. I've read like 2 issues. Very good.
I'm
I
looking at
also
um, I'm looking at artwork from Bitch Planet, and it seems very much like the 70s like Women in Chains films. If you know what I mean.
I let me take a look at this.
Like the
Yeah,
the hang
some of these
bars and stuff like
covers.
that.
Yeah, I know that like people have said this is a good comic, and also like I heard the name on one of the Image Comics documentaries, and I was like, I should probably read that. I was a little disappointed because the digest size printing of Saga got pushed back to like I think April 16th. That was supposed to come out at the end of the month. I was looking forward to getting that in Captain America Winter Soldier premiere on the same day.
Right.
But that's not happening now. I don't even know what the hell I've got coming in next week. Allow me to load up the Comic Hub website to. I want to say Absolute Batman #6 and the second printing of #4 comes out this week. So if they're both in on Wednesday, I'll be a very happy guy.
Is Comic Hub like just an order website, or are you able to like track your collection on there too?
It actually has a thing. If you go to like your order history, it shows you like all the stuff that you've bought.
Oh, okay. There's one called like League of Comic Geeks or something too, and it's actually like a website where you can, choose what you have in your collection and keep everything in track that way.
I think this just tracks everything that you've bought at your local comic shop since you signed up for Comic Hub.
Gotcha.
So we've got Absolute Batman #4 second printing, Absolute Batman #6, Assorted Crisis Events #1, Spawn 362, which I got in super late on. I don't think that's going to be in this Wednesday. Uncanny X-Men 133 facsimile edition, the Alan Moore Violator graphic novel, Witchblade #9, and the second volume of the X-Men manga, which I'm also not convinced is going to be in for me on Wednesday because I got in super late. So I'm learning all about the FOC, the Final Order cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
I had a copy of Sam and Twitch Case Files #11, and that didn't come in on Wednesday because I ordered it too late, but it came in Friday, so it's just kind of sitting in my Comic Hub cart until Wednesday when I can see what the final damages are going to be. But I should note this Wolverine #88. I got the facsimile of that. It's by Larry Hama. Artworks, I think, by Adam Kubert. The ad on the back, because the facsimiles reprint all of the original ads. The ad on the back is for WWF Raw, and I was sitting in line at the burger joint waiting to get to the thing to order, and I just flipped it over, and I was like, "Oh my god!" None of the other facsimiles that I'd gotten had any sort of wrestling related ads, and I flipped that one over, and fucking there it is.
If
The
if
the Monday
anyone
Night Raw.
if anyone's been listening for a long time, they know why that ad frustrates me so much. It's because the Game Gear version shows a screenshot that looks like the other versions, and the final product isn't anything like that. And I got that for my birthday, and yeah, it ruined my
Yeah,
birthday.
but the Game Gear version is Crush and Macho Man.
Yeah. and it's also got like little tiny pixelized men, and you can't really see what's happening.
And Yokozuna's in like accurate ring gear in that game too.
I mean, if you can see it, but yeah. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
made me
he's
sad.
pretty hard to miss. Like they made him a bit. He's also like way bigger in that game than he appears in Raw, which is strange. Like the
Yeah.
console version. Console version, he looks like the same size as everybody else.
But he has that little dance, and that's cool.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like the little like sumo gimmick he does, but
Yeah, it doesn't look
he
like that at
wasn't
all.
doing it on TV at that point. Yeah, no. I I tore through that issue yesterday. It's an issue that features Deadpool, and I like a lot of things that Larry Hama writes. Like the Larry Hama Wolverine stuff I've read is very good. Uh, he did not write a compelling Deadpool at all, but
You s-
also,
you said that was a reprint, right?
yeah.
Did the reprint come out?
Let me. Here it is. Turn on the light real quick. Manufactured between June 7th, 2024 and July 1st, 2024.
So how did they get the okay to have all those old ads in it? You'd think that they would have to like renew the licenses or like they'd do something. Oh, I guess not renew the licenses, but they would have to like work out a deal with the original like advertisement providers and stuff like that, wouldn't they?
It's probably something to do with like when whoever paid for the ad space, they agreed for it to be in subsequent reprintings.
That's interesting.
Because like I was when I went to the comic shop and I got the first reprint that I got, and the dude was like, "Yeah, they reprint all the old ads." I was like, "Oh, we're gonna fucking see about that." And I flipped through that Uncanny X-Men and I saw Narc and I saw like ads for like the old NFL trading card sets, and I was like, "God damn, they really do have everything."
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because I mean, obviously it's not an original copy from, when it first came out in 93 or 94 whatever. So you've got people like making these comics essentially in with ads for Raw. Like essentially they're new comics, right? I mean, they're reprints, but they're not original copies. And it's
Right.
just sort of weird that those things are being made now, you know what I mean? Like what a
Yeah,
strange
it's
thing.
really cool to see. They have some DC facsimiles at the comic shop. I was hoping they'd have some like '90s Batman ones, but a lot of the Batman ones they have are like Hush,
Hmm.
which I have Hush. I don't really. Not that I don't care what they were advertising in comics in the early 2000s. It's just not as interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And G.R. Hush 2, the first issue has over 400,000 copies sold.
I saw that. Yeah, James Gunn actually shared that on Instagram.
Yeah, I had that recommended to me on Google yesterday, and I was like, that's not insignificant for a modern comic to sell that. Like that thing is going to get like second and third print runs,
Yeah, it's
and
good
it's
to see too, for sure.
like Ultimate Spider-Man #1 did gangbusters last year. Absolute Batman #1 did gangbusters last year. And by the way, if you read comics and you're not reading Absolute Batman, you're missing out. It's maybe the best book going right now, other than Ultimate Spider-Man. Apparently, The Ultimates by Dennis Camp is really good too. Uh, Apparently, he made it very very well known. He's not a big fan of neo Nazis in the last issue, and I can
Oh,
obviously somebody he shared a picture, like a screenshot of like the title of a review, and it's like Dennis Camp makes his message to neo Nazis clear in Ultimates #10 : space die.
it's hard to believe that that's a um would be a controversial topic these days, but that's the way things are, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah, the culture shifted a little bit, and not a little bit, a lot. I'm being polite, and I shouldn't be. But I've seen people shitting on like the DC is woke. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like
Oh,
that
like
ranting for vengeance incel that I keep getting recommended people dunking on him on YouTube. Like
mhm.
there's that whole stereotype about the Irish just being like incredibly racist, and that dude proves it. Unfortunately.
There was like somebody posting. They had this right for DC recently, and they were like, just keep gay stuff out of the comics. And he's like, oh, you want more? He's like, yeah, okay, we'll add more to it. Yeah, people are just absolutely ridiculous. Um, you can't enjoy anything these days without somebody throwing a fit, and yet they're the ones that go on about cancel culture all the time. So
Yeah. Well, I thought the left was supposed to be tolerant. Like, no, we're returning your intolerance. We're tolerant of everybody else.
yeah,
We're just
it's
not tolerant of you.
and it's in every piece of fandom now, and it's fucking insufferable. Like everywhere. I just what a crappy time to live in. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he was talking about like how he hates that this is the time period his kid is growing up in. And I was like, I honestly cannot even imagine being a kid right now, nor could I imagine navigating parenthood right now.
dude,
Like,
I I showed you that picture yesterday of Dana White shaking hands with the Tate brothers, or like meeting up with
it'd
them.
be crazy if a car bomb just happened to be in the vicinity of all three of those people.
It reminded me though, there was someone on Facebook that I got rid of them after this, but like she had her son playing with Legos, and she's like, "Oh, he made the Tate brothers," and I was like, "What the fuck? Are you serious?" I just couldn't believe it. Like, do you know who these people are? Do you know what they've done? But
Yeah, the amount of people that I know that have shared like Andrew Tate quotes, it's like the next time I see you, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you.
it's disturbing.
Like,
It's definitely the things that you grew up and sort of naturally as you got older, considered very unacceptable. For example, human trafficking and abuse is now considered, huh? Well, that's okay. That's just what happened. It's I don't know. It's fucked. It's crazy fucked these days.
I see people I grew up around in like not for nothing, small fucking little rural town in Ohio. A lot of us did not have the most progressive upbringings, but I see a lot of the other kids I grew up with, who obviously adults now, some of them married with children, a lot of them. And I see the shit that they're sharing, and it's like, how am I the one that figured it out? Y'all went off to college. How am I the one that figured out like at some point you have to stop acting like a shithead? Like,
Yeah,
did you guys not interact with anybody that doesn't look like you those 4 years at fucking OSU? Like, well, how did we get here?
you could say
And
like
like,
the pandemic like broke people, but I just think it
oh,
exposed
it
people for
did.
who they really are, though.
The pandemic, it did both. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, especially like we've talked about this a bunch, but the generation that fucking wrote us for like can't believe everything you read on the internet. They're now the ones that sit on their phones on Facebook all day and they share AI generated fucking bullshit slop, and
Yeah,
they believe everything is told to them because it's on the computer screen.
yeah, it's
And it's
it's
like,
crazy. It's just gonna get worse too, unfortunately, especially with AI.
yeah, and like the political system in the U.S. needs to change. The Democrats are not the answer at this point. Um, they've all they don't give a fuck. They're about posturing on blue sky. They are going to fucking just bend over and take it from the Republicans. They're not going to do anything fucking meaningful to fight back.
Yeah, I
And it sucks because like I see all of them on blue sky because I subscribe to a fucking list, and it's like, oh, we must fight back. Then do it, bitch. Like I'll say the same thing now that I said fucking like a decade ago. Posting shit on social media is not activism. It's not political
no.
action. You're just posturing. You can make all of this stuff way harder for the orange dipshit in the office. Do it. Like
Gotta
stop
say,
trying to fucking play nice with these people. Like it's fucking bullshit.
if it's one thing that there was like an overwhelming sort of like togetherness in Canada, with this whole tariffs and the hockey game as well, which was actually pretty nice to see that everyone is so united. Um, and it's still, I guess, it's still very much the same. It feels that way anyway. Even like political, it doesn't feel as separated as it used to because everyone's like, fuck this. So
Yeah,
that was kind of nice, even if it's for a really shitty reason. It was cool. Um, but enough about politics. I don't want to drag anyone down. I know some people, get really fed up with it, especially when you turn on the news or turn on the TV in general every day, and it hits you in the face. I know for me it does. Or even
yeah.
when I turn on,
I've stopped doom scrolling. Like I use Blue Sky a bit, but the
yeah,
rest of the time I'm playing video games or
dude,
reading comics.
my work computer, the home screen is MSN, so like I see this shit all the time. I'm like, I don't want to see this. Um, so let's change the topic. You were talking about
Okay.
the 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 orders for Hush 2 was 400,000. I want to talk about something else that had a surprising amount of viewers recently. And that was the big Stardom match between Tam Nakano and Saya Kamatani. So they had their big
Yeah, I heard it
match
got
at,
5.
yes, here we go. Yeah, 5 stars it got. Um at Korakuen Hall. And so the stipulation was if Tam Nakano loses, she leaves Stardom. And it was the same for Kamatani, was it? Yeah, I believe it was. No, was it? I can't remember now. Shit.
Didn't one of them have to like join the heel faction or some shit?
No, 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 it wasn't anything like that. It was if Tom loses, she leaves Stardom. And I can't remember what the other stipulation was for Kamatani. Maybe it was the same. Mine's broken, and I'll tell you why in a second. So, it was another Kamatani main event with a standing room only crowd. I don't know if it's like this for all Korakuen shows now, but they have a lighting rig, which it seems sometimes is used and sometimes isn't, and it's really cool. It just gives it much more of a special feel. Show overall was pretty good. The main event was, yeah, it was really good. They had both factions at ringside, so they are both interfering, and it totally worked during the match because obviously one faction hate wants to see Nakano gone from the company, and Cosmic Angel wants to keep her in, so they're going to do everything they can to make sure she wins the match. There was a lot of heat. It worked out really well. Kamatani won in the end, so Tam Nakano had to leave Stardom. And, she's like all sad and she's going to the back, and then Kamatani grabs a megaphone and they start going back and forth. And she's like, "I'll give you one more chance." So, um, so they're gonna have another match shortly at Yokohama Arena, and this match is a retirement match. So the loser must retire. So technically, Nakano did leave Stardom because now she's listed as a freelancer. So that was the sort of way of working around it. And I know some people were upset that she hasn't actually left the company, but I mean, they didn't lie, really. I mean, she's no longer part of the Stardom contractor roster. She's a freelancer. So it was kind of funny. I wasn't mad at her or anything. But in regards to view count, so I read that it was supposed to start at like 5:30 in the morning, 6:30 in my time. I ended up getting up early anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. And it actually started late at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I was tired. I was just like trying to stay awake for it. So I start watching it, and there's like 10,000 people in the chat, and I was like, oh, that seems kind of high for a Stardom, live match. Sometimes they put the pre-show match on before a pay-per-view. They'll put it on YouTube for free, and obviously don't get that numbers. And I'm watching it, it's like 20,000, 30,000. Like, holy shit! Like, I don't remember anything doing this amount. 40,000, 50,000, and then I start watching it downstairs on the TV on YouTube, and I'm like halfway through the match, and I look, and there's 60,000 people watching it. I was like, holy shit! Like, this seems quite big for a Joshi wrestling show or a match free on YouTube still, but like 60,000 people are watching it. Plus, they've got Stardom World, so the subscribers on there are watching it as well. So yeah, it seemed to do really, really good numbers. As I brought up previously, Kamatani was on like a primetime show. and she got a lot of attention from that. So like everything they're doing is like just hitting right now. Yeah, so Dave Meltzer gave that match 5 stars. I don't know if it was 5 stars. I mean, that's his opinion again. People get way too worked up over that, but it was a really good match. And I just hope that they build more and more from here because the promotion is just really fun to watch and to see them doing really well. And Kamatani especially, who was just like this, mid card, sort of upper mid card talent. And now to see her like in the main event, have a huge character and stuff is just really, really cool. Um, yeah, I love Stardom. It's the best wrestling around right now, in my opinion.
Hiroki Goto versus Yuji Nagata is official for March 15th, which is a day I have off, so I will be fucking watching.
I should watch that too. I
Um,
thought that was funny. Their Korakuen Hall show where the ring broke.
yeah, and I guess Hartley Jackson made a joke about being the reason the ring broke, which crazy to me that guy's getting booked. Not because he's like
Yeah,
bad or anything. It's just like that's a name I've seen forever. Like, oh, he finally got to New Japan. Good for him.
yeah, he was in
Um,
like 0-1 and I think some other indies.
yeah, I did watch Goto versus Tanahashi, and I have some takes about that match, and I didn't want to type them all out on Blue Sky, so here they are. Hiroshi Tanahashi is not a guy that I've ever thought was like great. I was one of the people on DVD-VR in the 2010s that was like, okay, yeah, the Suzuki matches were great. Yeah, the Okada matches were really good. But then there's like everything else with him. Like, start the match doing limb work. Don't fucking acknowledge it towards the end. Just pushing more towards trying to do like the WWE style main events, which New Japan is better suited to what Goto's title reign has been, both for the title win and this match. 20 minutes, you get in, you do your shit, you tell a nice little story, you get the fuck out. New Japan has never, ever, 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 ever been a promotion that should have regularly had 30-minute, 40-minute fucking main events. That is ridiculous. Um, and Tanahashi's a big part of that. Also, fucking people being marks for the Observer that wear bandanas. That was also part of it too. Um, but I've always liked the Goto Tanahashi matches. Their match in '07, right after Tenzan came back from excursion, or Tenzan Goto. Goto beats Tenzan to get the title shot. That match is incredible. Their title match in 2011, where Goto should have beat him, was incredible. So, like, the 2013 G1 match where Goto's jaw gets broken, very good. Um, Also, might be the only person to get injured on the Styles Clash, but it's not because he tucked his head in like a dumbass. So that's interesting too.
Hmm.
Um, but Tanahashi is not moving very well. I remember the Dynamite before Forbidden Door in 2022 when he did the high fly flow to the outside, like how long it took him to set that up, and it was like he's gonna fucking fall. And then seeing him in Chicago, it was like I don't like him, but it's cool. He got his big main event in America in front of a sold out crowd, 15,000 people. That was awesome. Um, but he doesn't have anything left. Like he's the one wrestler I can ever think of that lost mobility and did not gain the ability to throw hard strikes. Because those strikes down the stretch in this match with Goto did not look like I would have let him hit my mom. That's how ineffective those strikes looked. like when somebody asked Lance Storm if Hulk Hogan worked stiff, and he's like, Hogan works so safe, I'd let him punch my kids. That was how I felt about Tanahashi strikes in that match with Goto. But I liked that he attacked the leg. I liked that shit mattered. I liked that they called back to the '07 match because Tanahashi beats him with the clover leaf. And if you're a nerd and you've been watching these guys for that long, you'd pick up on that. And if not, it's just a spot that makes fucking sense because he was working the leg the whole match. Hiroki Goto was the tentpole of that match. Tanahashi could not have had that match with anybody else. And despite like Goto doing everything he could, that match was like, I'm being polite when I say 3 stars.
Mm.
It's just Tanahashi's so fucking far gone. And he
Yeah.
doesn't have he never did the shit Muto did where it's like, okay, I'm shot. I'm going to start doing more mat wrestling. I'm going to rely on the low drop kicks and the figure 4 and like personality and shit. Tanahashi's still trying to do, and he can still do some of it, but he's still trying to do all of his shit from like a decade ago. And it's like, buddy, you're cooked. He's not even cooked. He's like, you tried to cook something in the microwave and your microwave blew up, so you throw it in the air fryer, your air fryer blows up, and you have no other options. So you fucking run that shit under really hot water in your sink, and then like that's what you got. It's Tanahashi. And yeah, it's something to watch him now. And it's very funny to say this, but like I have no doubt that Goto and Nagata is going to be a significantly better match, and also probably has a fairly good chance at being like my favorite men's match from Japan this year, or my favorite match from Japan this year in general. Yuji Nagata is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Hiroki Goto is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Aichi Prefectural Gym, for whatever reason, has some like weird magic when it comes to IWGP title matches, because that building in 06 hosted what I would consider to be the only really great Tanahashi Nakamura match. It's where Fujita shoot kicks Shibata in the head. It's where I think Fujita beats Tenzan to win the belt in 05. It's also not even IWGP title. It's where Kawada versus Jamal happens.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now you're speaking my language.
And so like I have a lot of reverence for big matches that happen in that building. So like I'm really looking forward to that. Also, I did get the Ringside Collectibles Unsanctioned Road Warriors on Monday. I got lucky. A lot of people are getting them. This first batch had the arms like swapped.
Mhm.
Where like the right arm and the left arm are switched around, which on
Oh.
Hawk, easy enough fix. On Animal, not so fast, because Animal has tattoos. I looked at mine. I haven't taken them out of the box, but I also I know what the human anatomy looks like, and these guys do not have switched arms on either of my sets. Like that's not a tricep up front. That is in fact a bicep. The forearms on mine aren't backwards or anything. I will say this though, the pads are a lot of the reason I think people think Animal looks too small, because I've seen plenty of pictures of him without the pads. He's bigger than Hawk. Also, I watched the Kyle Peterson review, and I that combined with another review, like I can't watch his videos anymore. That guy's an idiot. Well, I mean, he's a big Jeremy Pidower fan anyway, so I should have known. But he was like really trying to say like these are Jazzwares bodies, and it's like the crotch piece is nothing like their figures. And also, someone on Wrestling Figs disassembled Hawk and a Brody King, and it's like, oh no, the waist pegs are completely different.
Yeah.
The arms are completely different. Like all of these parts are completely different. And he was like really trying to tie the conspiracy theory together, despite Tom repeatedly on Wrestling Figs saying we're the ones manufacturing the figures. Now, are they using the same factory? Maybe. I don't know. But I also saw a video. He did a review of the Hellspawn figure, and the artist on the Hellspawn series, his name is Ashley Wood, and Kyle Peterson's like, oh, this looks like a more feminine Spawn. And I mean, you see the name of the artist, Ashley Wood, clearly a woman. And it's like, you could have took 3 seconds and Googled that. There's zero reason to make yourself look like a fucking idiot if you don't have to. Like, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I like those Road Warriors. I do think Animal would have benefited from having a bigger body. But I also agreed with Brian Myers. The Mattel one, the red pads one from like 2014-ish, that one's a little too big. The ringside one's a tad too small. Like somewhere in the middle would have been the ideal scenario there. But I don't think they're bad figures. But I've also seen, and we talked about this last week, we'll talk about it again right now. I've seen the people like, oh, the Zombie Sailor 6-inch line is dead. No. Because I've seen it a lot more this week. Like, no, look at that King Kong Bundy, and then look at these roadies. One of those figures clearly looks like a pretty high quality action figure. The others, look like somebody really wanted to do Jazzwares Road Warriors. It's different. They're different. But I do hope ringside. Oh, I also got the ringside bell to bell Sabu, and I'm very disappointed in that figure.
Oh yeah.
So you see the pictures and you assume, okay, they did the double jointed elbows. There's going to be ball jointed shoulders too, right? Wrong. Regular shoulders like an 80s Remco, they just have double jointed elbows. So then I start like trying to move the legs, and it's the same legs with like the weird fucking proportions where have you seen the bell to bell figures like the Steiners and the Road Warriors?
Yeah.
They look like they have fucking like Motaro's legs from Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Like they have like fucking Minotaur legs. And it doesn't make any sense. That's not how human fucking beings look. And Sabu's got those, but they're hidden under very, very well made like soft goods. So it is what it is. But yeah, very, very much not impressed with the bell to bell Sabu. I don't think I'll be buying any figures in the line after that. I did allude to the Dusty and Cody 2-pack earlier. So I might have kicked over Hornet's Nest on the Major Pod group and made a post about it'd be really nice if fucking Powertown would give us an update. And so they updated on the 5th the pre-order status page on their website, and it says the Myers and Cardona 2-packs have been fulfilled, which that's truthful. But the Remco figures, which by the way were supposed to ship in January, still stay en route shipping soon. So I posed this question to Wrestling Figure News last night because the Cody and Dusty 2-pack has a March 21st ship date. I said, what are the fucking odds we have those in hand before Powertown ships one Remco figure?
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck
people can
Powertown.
bang on, yeah, fuck them. They could have the dopest lineup for Series 2. I don't care anymore. And like,
Dude,
they were at Toy Fair.
yeah, I saw that. They had like the world in their hands with that first wave. Even if with the problems, it's like people are super interested, in these figures and the quality and stuff, and then they just dropped the ball so hard it went through the floor.
We do have to talk about this. So their PR firm, Southern
Southern Justice?
Communications,
Oh,
they were at Toy Fair, and in their booth in the back corner where you put the wrestling toys, they had Ultra Series 1, the Myers and Cardona 2-pack, and the Remco figures. And interestingly, they had Ultra Series 1 in boxes reminiscent of how the TNA Ultras and the
right.
Ultra Series 2 were designed. But these had a J-hook, as in like you would put them on a peg at a retail store.
That's interesting.
People were like, oh, they're just going to reissue these figures or whatever. And it's like, think about it. The first fucking run of these were direct to consumer. If you get them into retail, you're going to want Series 1 on shelves. The problem is you can do Vern Gagne and Lou Thez direct to consumer. You can do Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen direct to consumer. You can do Magnum TA direct to consumer. I don't think any figure in that series except Kerry Von Erich stands a snowball shot in hell at major retail.
I would agree, although, and this is me personally, definitely not the general consumer, but I would pick some of those up if they were more available at a more affordable price. And let's say
Agreed.
they're on Amazon and free shipping. Yeah, I'd pick up a Brody and Magnum and stuff. But yeah, as far as like general consumers and retail, I see them being peg warmers. Honestly, we know that the people that buy figures now are mostly WWE fans, when it comes to actual retail stores. So they're not going to have any idea of who these names are. I mean, they don't even have an idea of who some of the AEW people are, right? So why?
Right.
I don't see why they would be a hot topic or anything. Not a
And for
topic, a hot topic.
as much as Powertown shits on Zombie Sailor, I think if you look at Ultra Series 1 versus Zombies 6-inch Series 1, Zombies lineup has people that are far more likely to sell at retail than anybody in Powertown Series 1 even carry.
Yeah. And I mean, it's
Bundy and Jarrett alone.
Like I said, it's all good for people like me and you that are hardcore and seek these names out, but in general, it's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, and especially like Powertown figures are very nice, I
Hmm.
also hate that they're just unwilling to change the way the hands connect on the ultras because you can't touch the fucking wrist of these figures without a hand falling off.
I still have an open mind, to be honest. My Carrie and Hanson are still in the packaging.
But I'll also say this: Powertown releasing those direct to now, let's say for the sake of argument, because Zombie keeps saying competitive pricing. If that's 35, I saw somebody saying, "Well, these are going to be $70." That's not competitive pricing. Quit being stupid. If
Yeah.
Zombie prices his stuff $35, does Powertown look like a reasonable deal at that point for $35? Look at the quality of the head sculpts on Jarrett and Bundy, and the paint application, and the articulation. Are you gonna pay 35 for a Powertown figure when there's the Zombie figures that are actually like somewhat modern, like right next to them? I don't think
How
so.
how would you? What price point would you suggest for them?
I think Powertown needs to be 25
I'd agree with that. I was just thinking, like,
because
how much lower do you think they could go? I think 25 would probably be the minimum, right?
well, we know from how all of this has worked out that they way over ordered Series One
Right.
because they reoffered them like fucking 4 different times before they even got to the uncirculated ones. So like, yeah, if you over order and just give Target like 10,000 of these things, you can hit whatever price point you want. But I'm just thinking like single joint elbows, single joint knees, the really finicky wrist connectors. They only have one head sculpt. You can't put that like it's in theory in a Target where there's the WWE, the AEW, the Zombie line, and then this. Those figures look cheaper than even the AEW figures by comparison because the AEW figures will occasionally give you a different portrait and different hands.
Right.
And the AEW figures have better articulation. So even if the Powertown stuff's $25, Unrivaled and Unmatched are still $20.
I would say
So
that
like,
I think when you're buying a figure, especially wrestling figures, I think, well, unless the attire is flashy, but the first thing you notice is probably the head. And
yeah,
I think the Powertown heads are much better and the higher quality than the Jazzwares. So I don't think they look cheap compared to the Jazzwares in that instance. I think some of the Jazzwares heads are like pretty fucking bad, to be honest. So I think Powertown's got the advantage there at least.
I would agree. Yeah.
I mean, the problem
Mr.
with me,
Lee on Instagram just put up a video comparing the Storm Arena figures to Marvel Legends, and good
why?
grief. Because
Um,
they're in the same, like, because people are asking, because, like, the fucking Ryu and Cyclops handshake from X-Men vs. Street Fighter,
all right.
it's all supposed to be, like, 1/12 scale, but these look great.
The problem that we brought up with, if you remember, Series One of Powertown is that the faces were very expressionless.
Yeah,
And
they're very
maybe
static.
it could be a case if someone sees an AEW figure with an expression, maybe they're likely to go with that. But like in general, I feel like the Power Towns look who they're supposed to look like in AEW. Sometimes I see these figures, I'm like, that looks awful. So in that regard, I do think they have better likenesses. But yeah, I don't see them doing well at retail. It's going to be a tough sell. I mean, if they get them on retail, like I said, that's cool for us. But for everyone else and their sales, I don't see a very bright outcome in that. It might hurt the company more than anything else has so far.
It's amazing to me that there are still people that are like, I'm going to be a Power Town completist after all of this.
Dude, people are crazy. There was one guy who was like, um, I talked to Sal on the phone and yeah, he's made mistakes and people didn't get this, but I'm willing to give him another chance. I'm like, you just made an entire post saying why you shouldn't give him a chance, and then in the end you said I'm gonna give him another chance. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like, I, so many of these, like, independent figure makers are just, and Zombie's not exempt from this. A lot of these guys are just douchebags. The key to it is if the douchebag makes something that I think is high quality and like I'd actually want to buy.
Yeah.
And Sal is never going to do that.
I suppose I'm not one to talk. I mean, I did just buy 2K25, and it's pretty much the same game in a broken mess in a lot of ways. But I guess we're all guilty of that sort of shit of giving second chances to people or companies that don't deserve it. But
Yeah. I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious about like how I'm spending my money. And also like at this point, we talked about it earlier with like the Street Fighter stuff, but there's so much stuff coming out and like
Mm.
and so much of it's at like a similar price point. Like, do I really want like the Strike Force 2-pack is probably going to be about as much as the Public Enemy 2-pack. You know, that's a horrible comparison because I love Strike Force. The Brain Busters, that's a better
Yeah,
one. Like potentially a similar price point. I haven't looked. I'm guessing it's like $60. Public Enemy, where I think 69. Ha. But like, I have a finite amount of money if I like for my entertainment, which now comic books are starting to take more of a larger cut of that. If I'm going to spend 60 or 70, which at that point it's really not that significant a difference on these retro figures, am I gonna buy like I like Arn and Tully more than I like Public Enemy? To be perfectly clear, I love Arn and Tully, but like $10 more, I get figures that have better paint applications, better sculpting, the packaging looks nicer, and I know what these are going to feel like in hand. Or do I go $10 less for figures that are not as high quality? And like, while I might like the characters more, I have a rough idea of what they're going to feel like in hand, and it's not $60 like quality. Does that make
right.
sense? Like, you've got to be mindful, especially in this era where like so much stuff is getting licensed now. Like, we didn't even talk about the Jada Toy Scooby Doo stuff. $30 versus 25 for Street Fighter. That Sagat figure is the same price as Shaggy from Scooby fucking Doo.
Links.
That was good. That was really good.
Oh, like Scoob. Oh, I can't do a Shaggy. I'm not very good at. But
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
um,
I was gonna say it is crazy the amount of things that are getting licensed these days.
it's
Um,
99 all over again.
and it's hard to keep track of it all. Like it seems like every
Yeah,
day there's like something else spinning us. I'm like, wait, shit, what? Like when the Mortal Kombat line was announced for McFarlane, I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool, but here's another one. And and then it popped in my head. Oh yeah, remember those Bloodsport figures? Oh yeah, remember the Van Damme and Bloodsport with Zombie Sailor and all this different stuff. I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of things going on right now.
it's a lot. And I like the zombie Bloodsport figures. I also I wish they were just a 2-pack because you're not going to buy the Bolo Young figure
Yeah,
just to have him by himself because he's literally posed taking the kick. Like they're meant to be put together.
it'd
They
be
they look great though. Those are fucking awesome.
it'd be cool if you could have like a whole line of like movie martial arts action figures. Like you've got Bruce Lee, you've got John Claude Van Damme. If you can get more people, that'd be really neat. We'll see.
Yeah, I do think he might because we see with Army of Darkness, he's trying to round out like characters from the movie.
Right.
Perhaps he's going to do that with Bloodsport, and we'll get a more like we'll get a figure of I'm blanking on what Bolo's character is called in that movie, and I've seen it like fucking 20 times. But like
Hmm.
we might get him in a more like appropriate like fighting stance, and we might get like a Jean Claude Van Damme, not mid fucking jump kick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'll buy those, but I think they're super cool. Um, Speaking of Mortal Kombat, no photography allowed at Toy Fair, but Todd McFarlane, as I kind of figured, did a walkthrough of them, and I have some thoughts and opinions. But I'll ask you what you thought of them first.
Okay. I did see a lot of people shitting on those figures. On Reddit, there's an action figure subreddit, and it was recommended to me, I guess, because of my interest in them, and just people are just like very, very like angry and harsh. I do agree with everyone that I wouldn't have them at 7-inch, but that's obviously that's McFarlane's thing. And obviously I would prefer Jada or Storm Marina. But if this is all that we're gonna get and there's nothing else on the horizon, then I will likely end up getting them because I really want Mortal Kombat figures. I saw a lot of people like just complaining about the designs themselves and stuff. I didn't really see too much of a problem, but there was other people that were really upset. With like
Is
the
it the design of
sculpts.
the costumes or the okay? That was kind of what I was gonna bang on.
Yeah, I don't know. To me too, it's like they're in the prototype phase, so let's wait until we get like a finished product or get more production images and stuff like that. And because
Pre-orders are going up in the spring. Those are the final designs.
oh, are they okay? Well, let's at least
Yeah.
get some better footage. Like taken from an Instagram video. You're not gonna get the. I don't think they were the best images anyway. Um, so I want to see more. But yeah, I mean, I like I said, I do agree that 7-inch. I think it's too big. But again, if that's all that we're gonna get, if that's the only choice we have, then you either jump or you don't. So I guess that's my thoughts. I I don't dislike them enough that I don't want to get them. I would take them at a smaller scale, but if that's all that's offered to me and that price point, then I'll take them.
I get that. I saw the video, and I will repeatedly say Todd McFarlane's one of my favorite comic book artists of all time. I know Spawn, a lot of it is just like really pretentious, brooding dreck, but I still love it. It's one of the quintessential '90s comics. Like I read those old Spawn comics, and it's like a fucking like I've stepped through a portal to like 1994. So they're very comfy to read, even if some of the subject matter is a little much. Um, I don't like that the Liu Kang body is the same Liu Kang that we got in MK11. I hate the way the diaphragm joint is cut in that because it looks so unnatural. It's not a clean line. It's like a fucking like jigsaw across the middle of his torso, and that looks really weird. I dicked around with some of my MK11 figures, which I have Scorpion, Sub Zero, and Liu Kang. Um, the range of motion on those is fucking awful. So unless you're just standing them still, like static, you're getting like no posability out of them. It's 2025. Characters should have better butterfly joints than what McFarlane has offered with some of his Mortal Kombat figures. And maybe Scorpion and Sub Zero are going to feature completely new bodies underneath the costumes. I'm not convinced until we see like he's going to be at WonderCon, so I'm assuming if photography's allowed, we're going to get better pictures. But I looked at those figures and it's like still pin joints. They're still 7-inch figures. The range of motion on them is going to be awful. Which again, if you're just standing them static or you're an on-card collector, that doesn't fucking matter. So like I'm just rambling about nothing at that point. But I'm the kind of guy that takes my Jada Street Fighter figures out and like fucks around with them for a little bit, trying to figure out, when I do have the shelf space, like how I'm going to pose them. You're not going to be able to do that with these. You might be
Mm.
able to do win poses with some of them, I would imagine. But at that price point, it's again, it goes back to what I just said about the Zombie Sailor versus Epic. If McFarlane launches those at 20 and the Jada figures as a uniform go up to 30, or even if the smaller ones stay at 25, that's a $5 difference for much higher quality. I also understand though, if it's the only Mortal Kombat figures, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Like it's that or nothing. I'm just thinking like in a general sense of I like all of these different like properties, and I have again a finite amount of money. I can't let my preference for characters override just like I also like this character, and this is yes a little bit more expensive, but it's much higher quality. It fits my needs as a collector better than what Todd's offering. I will say there's a lot of people saying a lot of really awful things, like saying the Scorpion and Sub Zero figures look bad. I don't think they look bad. I know what the range of motion is on McFarlane figures, and it's very 2019. If he changed the articulation scheme to be a little bit more modern, you wouldn't hear like a single fucking complaint out of me.
Mm.
But we're still dealing with what people thought was like state of the art pre-pandemic. And all you've got to, and I understand Todd's fucking stubborn and it's more about the sculpt than the articulation or posability. But like, take a look at like, what is the one thing Mortal Kombat is always paired with when people talk about it? Street Fighter. There's two different lines showing you exactly what people expect at this price point, and to not do it is really, really shitty.
Yeah.
But he's also losing the DC license, and it looks like Mortal Kombat might be the thing that fills a little bit of that gap. I heard they're estimating between 4 and 12 figures a year, which if you're not just doing redecos, they're going to burn through that the classic Mortal Kombat roster quickly, unless they start, branching up to like 4. And then we get to the really interesting, like, do they consider Deadly Alliance classic now? Because it's a 23-year-old game. Are we able to get those designs? As the line progresses, are they going to modernize the articulation? As the line progresses, are they going to maybe pack some more stuff in the boxes? I understand Todd really likes that $20 price point. But again, value for money. We've talked about it with the video games over the years on the show too. Like, whatever you're paying for it, you've got to be able to get that value back. And I don't know if, just sake of argument, they do Mortal Kombat 4 Sub-Zero and he just has like the axe from that game, or like the little spike club that he has. Is that $20 when for $5 more you're getting multiple hands, multiple heads, effects piece, effects stand? But again, like, this is foreseeably the only Mortal Kombat line we've got coming. So you kind of have to make do. I'm waiting to see more detailed pictures, but I will tell you honestly, I was not impressed with that Liu Kang. A lot of that body is like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And to launch a new line and not he's the main character of at least the first 4 Mortal Kombat games. To not tool a new body for him kind of doesn't put forth the best first impression for me. But we're going to see. I mean, listen, if he charges 25 for those, he can go fuck himself.
But you talk about
no
price point too. In my situation on Amazon, I often see them go down for like $10 less than they would normally. So
interesting.
That certainly helps. Sometimes there might be a DC figure I like, and I'll say it's maybe $5, maybe $10. It'll go down in price, and it's like, okay, I'll pick that up now. And that might be the case with Mortal Kombat too. Maybe at the time, I don't want to spend the money on it, but if I see it drop down in price, then then it'll make more sense to me. We'll see, because they don't, like I said, they don't always go for the standard retail price on Amazon in some cases.
Which is a good thing, if you can get them cheaper. Todd changed the toy industry in the 90s with the more attention to detail with the sculpting, because nobody else was really doing that. These were just stupid little toys that people made to get people to part with their money so their kids would shut up. Like, I get that, but I also, it's not 1994 anymore. You pushed the industry forward, and he's doing wired capes at a $20 price point, but Jada Toys did that at 25 with M. Bison. So
yeah,
I would just, if Todd's not going to conform to the scale conventions of the era, it would at least be nice if he conformed to the articulation, because especially the further when you get to the games that aren't like digitized sprites, especially, those characters do far more acrobatic attacks and poses than you're going to be able to faithfully replicate with Todd's current articulation scheme.
Yeah.
So he's got to modernize these somehow. And, for the sake of everybody that's going to be a completist on this line, I hope he does, because I don't want that line to fail. I don't want any of these lines to fail. I want anything that fucking plays in the wheelhouse of something I might have a little bit of a compulsion to spend money on. I want that shit to do well, because if I spend money on it, I want to get something good.
Right. Of course.
But it's just at first glance, this is a little disappointing. I'm also curious about the 2-packs, right? Because we saw the Melina and weird Sub-Zero with ice effect on his arms. Like, what's that going to cost? Is that going to be a retailer exclusive? Is he going to do like the platinum and gold label bullshit with these?
Mortal Kombat
If
Gold.
so, well, but I mean like the gold label stuff where it's like the figure is signed or it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a more premium deco or something like. And also, how do I put this? Does he get into the player two palette swaps for people like Jada Toys did? Is there a market for player two palette swaps when for characters like Scorpion or Sub Zero, it's a slightly darker or lighter color depending which character?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know about that.
Like with Jax, I can see it because in Mortal Kombat 2, the red changes to blue. And in 3, I think it goes from purple to green. But the Sub Zero palette swaps is like a slightly different color, like a
Hmm.
slightly lighter or darker shade of blue. Scorpion is a little bit more orange than yellow on player 2. Like, I guess there's potential for like Liu Kang, right? Because like player 1 red, player 2 blue. I think in 3 it's player 1 red, player 2 gray. If Melly makes it this far into the show, uh, feel free to correct me on any of this, but it just feels like there's not as much potential for redecos there. Not that that'll stop it,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
like,
they did it for Mortal Kombat 11 too, right? In different colors, and it was Liu Kang in like yellow, sort of like Bruce Lee, Game of Death, Kill Bill colors. I don't know how well they did. I mean, I always looked at them and was like, eh. But it's funny though because like the standard Liu Kang comes in like the t-shirt and like vest, and if
yeah,
you
and if you
took the
cut the shirt off, he doesn't have like a regular lower abdomen area.
yeah, and but if you took that off, then you would just have essentially Mortal Kombat 3 Liu Kang, and the yellow pants didn't have
Missing
the shirt.
his lower torso. Yeah.
The yellow pants didn't have the shirt and vest, so it was like a weird combination. But like I said, I don't know how well those figures sold. I don't think it's as prominent as you just said with like Mortal Kombat as it is with Street Fighter. So I don't know how well they would do. I have no idea.
And like, how long does he expect that line to run? Like, again, to go back to my question, what is considered classic Mortal Kombat? Are we still saying it's just the first couple of games? Are we able to expand into 4 and get a Shinnok and a Quan Chi and Kai and like Jarek?
They don't have to keep it classic though, right? I mean,
I
potentially
mean, the
they could
line is
do.
called Mortal Kombat Classic.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they could do Mortal Kombat 1 if they want. I mean, they could even do like I brought it up last week, but if possible, like the movie license and then you've expanded it in that way too. Um, I don't know. We'll see. They'll probably do like variations of like. Actually, I wonder if they would. Would they try and do like Game Boy Color versions or some shit like that? You know what I mean? Like, because Mortal Kombat was on the
Oh,
Game
with like
Boy.
the pixel art deco.
Yeah, I guess that's more of a
Uh,
mecha thing, right?
yeah. Well, they did it. Remember the Justice League fighting game?
Oh yeah, yeah. Task Force. Yeah,
That feels like a super. Well, also like, yeah, I don't know because the Game Boy ones would be more interesting than Game Gear because Game Gear would just be like you're doing a shittier version of the regular figure deco.
right.
But I I don't know like is there a market for like the monochromatic deal with those?
I don't know, but it's an
I mean,
idea.
yeah, it would look really interesting and also like one positive thing I'll say about this line is I'm looking at 2 of the big figures he did for Spawn. I'm looking at Overkill and Cygor. The Goro he does is going to be fucking massive.
Yeah,
He's also going to be like $50.
yeah. I imagine they're gonna do like 2 packs of accessories too. Like you may get um 2 figures with like the pit, at least the top part of it, and maybe accessories for the bottom or something like that. Different stages. Maybe get like Shang Tsung's throne room and stuff like that.
So I'm looking at the video again, and I will say, I think last week I said it looked like Liu Kang might have some reuse in terms of the head sculpt. He doesn't. That's a completely new head. Um,
Yeah.
It's just everything else is from the MK11 figure. The Raiden
Do we
looks
get
interesting because it. Oh, go on.
do we get like accessories? Do we get like little babies for babalities and like animalities and fatalities and stuff like that?
I know that the render of Scorpion had a spear next to him, and Melina's got the
Mm,
two different colored thigh for the Sub Zero. And I think the Sub Zero has like the ice grenade from his Mortal Kombat 2 fatality, the one that's like really fucking hard to do.
yeah,
But it doesn't look like we're getting, a fireball for Liu Kang or. And also, I wanted to point out the Raiden. Remember the retailer leak recently for a glow in the dark classic Raiden?
yeah,
Um, we know the body that's going to use now because it's right there in the background with Melina and Liu Kang. The Melina figure is also interesting. If Todd's cameraman could have held the camera steady for like a half a second, we'd have a way better look at some of these figures. But yeah, I didn't mean to rant for as long as I did about those. I'm hoping the line's successful, but I'm also hoping Todd kind of gets over himself a little bit with these because like there's really good stuff being done, and the last thing you want is to be the cheaper option that people would rather not take because there's higher quality stuff for other licenses that they might want to spend money on. Because
yeah,
that's kind of what it came down to with me in the late 90s when all the video game figures started coming out. Like, yeah, that Crash Bandicoot's really cool and I got him, but all like these are the same price as the wrestling figures. And I'm not going to skip out on getting, the first X-Pac figure I find so I can have a boss character from Crash Bandicoot because I can't play with the Crash Bandicoot toys like you play the video game anyway.
mm,
Like, actually, that was a horrible example because the Crash figures were actually way better than the Jax Bone Crunchers. Then again, everything was. So, the late 90s. I am curious as to when Syndicate Collectibles are actually going to solicit pre orders for those Bloodsport figures because they did say they'd be coming later this year.
yeah,
But, like, how much later? I think winter was what they'd said at one point. We'll see.
yeah. We'll see. I have no
And
idea.
I think just going by like what they're charging for the Double Dragon figures, we can already kind of figure out we're looking at like probably $45 for those a piece.
Probably.
And like we're learning all about like licensing tax now because like you again the Scooby Doo figures and a little bit of that on Marvel Legends Maximum Spider-Man as well. Honestly, like I think if that was a GI Joe figure, it'd probably like even with all of the like tooling and accessories and deco, it would probably be a little bit lower. But because like it's Marvel, it's Marvel, baby. Also, like another big example of licensing tax. Remember that Joker playset that came out,
Yep.
and it came out that basically like part of the deal to do any sort of licensing with that movie is everything has to be priced like a premium collector's item,
Ooh.
which that's a great way to just not make any fucking money off of this thing that you've made.
Yeah, it was horrible because when they showed it off, it sort of looked like they were going to release Joker as a single figure. I was like, oh, that's cool because I don't need the whole stage talk show set with Murray, Robert De Niro. So I was like, I'd get a Joker. I mean, that first movie, I like that first movie, and I'd like to have like all the movie Jokers and stuff like that. So yeah, I was interested, and then it's like, oh no, it's a giant, you have to get the whole set, and it's super expensive. And I was like, oh okay, well that's not happening. Um,
Yeah, it's sad because a lot of people blamed McFarlane for that, and that's not entirely fair.
no,
After a certain point, the licensor does set some of the price point because the more you can charge for it, the more the royalties are for the licensor, along with all the production costs, and the toy maker has to make the profit too. But like, it's why so many of these original IPs like GI Joe, it's why those figures are so much cheaper relative to like Marvel Legends in some regards because Hasbro just owns that shit. You don't
yeah,
have to pay any licensing fees. They own that. Oh, also, did we talk about the Power Rangers figures at Toy Fair last week? I feel like we did. I just want to reiterate that I think those are fucking horrible. actually, because I saw more videos and pictures of them.
Are they the ones that are like the old ones that came out in the 90s?
So they're doing the like little morphing head ones. They're doing like the taller ones that came out in the 90s that are like an exact
Right.
replica. And then there's like the 5.5 inch quote unquote collector's line that is devoid of like any modern articulation.
Oh, nice.
Like, oh, we've got pins that rotate in the knees like a Super 7 figure. Like, cool, it's $15. I guess it's, I guess I can't complain too hard. But they're also missing deco. And how do you not have an ab crunch? It's fucking 2025.
Were those what were they called? Like the Morphin collection or something? Were they any
Oh,
good?
Lightning Collection.
Lightning collection, yeah.
The Hasbro ones? Or are we talking about
Yeah.
something different? The
No, that's
Hasbro
it.
ones people really liked. I didn't have any, but like people really like those. But it also falls into the thing everybody complains about now. Like they only do Mighty Morphin. Yeah, because that's the one. If the other shows were as popular as that, they wouldn't focus on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers nostalgia. But like you can have like Time Force or whatever the fuck one of the later shows are. Like, oh, they could make this, but they only make Mighty Morphin. And I equated it to my friend Cara recently. Like, they could make Carlito and Snitsky, but they won't stop making Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. After a certain point, you do just kind of have to default to what sells, especially
Yeah.
up front with Playmates. They just paid a boatload of fucking money for the rights to make Power Rangers figures. You're going to want the return on investment as quickly as possible. And maybe they will expand, maybe they won't. I did see that they're doing AI enhanced episodes of fucking Mighty Morphin to sell to like Netflix and YouTube and shit.
What?
And yeah, so Roseanne recently got AI enhanced episodes that went on Peacock because my mom will watch Roseanne on Peacock and I love that show. And we went from having like the nice 4x3 versions that were on there. I mean, they didn't look great. The DVDs look better, but like at least it's, 4x3. And like recently they were like 16:9. And I was like, this is so fucked up because Amazon Prime used to have these cropped episodes that like they were cropped. Like the text would be like fucking huge on the screen. People's heads would be getting cut off. And so mom had them up and I watched the credits and I was like, wait a minute, the text is like really small. It's like perfectly centered and like the font is like crisp. It's immaculate. So I was like, do they have a Blu-ray coming out? And like, no, Roseanne is another in a long line of these shows that are getting quote unquote AI enhancements. And it just looks like somebody smeared a bunch of shit on the fucking screen.
They use the Topaz upscaler or whatever it's called.
Fuck, it looked like it. It didn't look particularly impressive.
Ugh.
And it really solidified my belief. Like they did a box set of the show Cheers, a Blu-ray box set, and apparently the transfer is fucking incredible. I need to get that box set before they replace Cheers with some fucking just AI generated slop.
They've been doing that with a lot of 4Ks recently. Like, I think they did it with Terminator and a few other things where,
Yeah, apparently James Cameron went fucking overboard with it.
yeah, in the background there's like weird faces and text is all wrong and shit. Like the GTA remastered is what they're like. I think on Terminator, I haven't watched it yet. I have it on 4K, but it was said to be better than some of his other releases. I heard like Aliens and Abyss were pretty bad for it.
I have the old like Terminator 2 4K that I got like 5 years ago and I still worked at like Walmart and I've never popped that in. I have it. I haven't because I think at one point like when I really wanted to watch it, it was on HBO Max and I was like, fuck it.
Is that the one that might be the one that came with the vinyl, which I have, and like they
Oh no,
replaced
it was
Arnold.
it's just a regular like 4K Blu-ray combo pack, I think.
Yeah, it might be the same like version though. I assume it would be, but mine was like a came with a vinyl of the soundtrack. Um, and that's when they like when he released it and they replaced Arnold's face when he does the jump off the into the oh god damn it when he's chasing the T-1000's truck and trying to save John. You could tell in the original version that it's the stunt actor and they digitally replaced his face with Arnold and they made some like adjustments that way. I saw that version in the theater. It was in 3D and yeah, it was super obvious. And I mean, that stuff started with Star Wars, right? With George Lucas like making, changes to his movies, and at the time it was seen like sacrilege, but it seems to be done more and more these days at a lower scale. Like they're just replacing like maybe CGI shots here and there. Like they aren't new chunks of the movie that are added in. But yeah, it's more commonplace. I know they with Alien Romulus, there's a CGI character, and they had worked more on the home video version because it wasn't finished. Um, and stuff like that. I think Deadpool and Wolverine was a case of that too. It's weird. It's weird. It's like movies now are like video games where they go into the theaters unfinished. You know, it's like the CGI is not done. Oh, we can work on it for the home video release. Crazy how things work.
Yeah, I hate it. Also, speaking of home video releases, the Kevin Smith Masters of the Universe Revelation and Revolution show, that's actually getting a Blu-ray release, a steelbook, and I was really excited for it. Day one pre-order, but it's being done by Mill Creek Entertainment, which if you have the Blu-ray version of JCVD Street Fighter, you know that they're not to be trusted. That is a really dog water transfer of that movie, unfortunately. But this is the only physical we're ever going to get for Revolution and Revelation. I know a lot of people like saying woke about that show because Tila's like the main character for a few episodes, and then He-Man comes back, and it's very clearly He-Man number one, Tila number two. But people got really stupid about that show, like, oh, she doesn't have big boobs anymore. Like, it's a fucking character from an '80s cartoon designed to get stupid little kids to ask their parents to spend money.
Yeah.
Why is this the hill you're willing to die on? And also, like, if you ever watched '80s Masters of the Universe, it's fucking slop. It's dreck. It's terrible. The Kevin Smith show at least has some fucking story and some plot and some goddamn artistic intent and some sincerity to it. But these people don't want that. They saw girl as main character and they pissed their fucking pants, like Ghost of Yote. I feel bad for that actress that's playing the main character in that because she got fucking bombarded and she didn't deserve that. Like, grow the fuck up. Like, there's
Yeah.
going to be media that doesn't have a fucking dude as the main character. Like, get over it. Go fuck yourself.
I mean, there's this we sort of talked about it before, but there's so many accounts dedicated to all of that shit. Like, oh, it's female person. Oh, there's a black person in this. Oh, there's a gay person in this. You know, it's they live for that shit. Basically, they live to bitch.
The
That's all they do.
people, the people that took exception with that Miles Morales side mission in Spider-Man 2, where you help a classmate ask another male classmate out instead of
Yeah,
taking aim at the fact that the game just sucked. Like, we have Mary Jane segments where she's basically fucking like Princess Leia, and that's not who Mary Jane is in any other adaptation. It's just Insomniac. Insomniac was like, "Oh, you didn't like what we did with her before? Well, now you're gonna have to play these full-on fucking." She's taking down goddamn symbiotes. Like, fuck you.
yeah. I mean, people always focus on the wrong, stupid shit these days. You know, it's
And I don't even have an issue with Mary Jane being an integral part of the story because she's Mary fucking Jane. But I do not need to play Mary Jane missions.
right.
I do
Yeah.
not need the Jean Grey missions in Wolverine. I love Jean Grey. Like, that's
How about Jean Grey missions in the X-Men game and stuff? Wolverine.
how about fucking they just make an X-Men game that plays like X-Men Legends because that's what a lot of people want.
Not happening, dude.
No, it's not. It's gonna be like that fucking Avengers game and it's gonna suck.
Boy, that
I'm
Avengers
willing to
game was real
bet you
bad.
I'm willing to bet you the fucking original concept of that game was it was going to be live service like the Avengers, and they've probably scrapped that because the live service always online fucking multiplayer Spider-Man 3 component got fucking left on the cutting room floor. But like, people took so many exceptions with so many stupid things about Spider-Man 2, and it's like you're picking apart minutia that doesn't matter, and you're overlooking like they nuked the gameplay for no reason. It's supposed to be a Peter story, but you finish the final boss fight with Miles. Miles
Hmm.
has like a huge emphasis in the game, and it's apparently because somebody at Sony was like, "Oh no, we're dropping a new fucking Spider-Verse movie. You need to put more focus on him." And Miles rules. I love that character. I hate the way he's utilized in every single one of these games. I hate the way he's utilized in his own game. Like, can Miles Morales be cool in one of these games instead of like a fucking nerd that's just there because somebody at Sony decided he needs to be? Can we get like a Miles Morales story that's got like a little bit of heart to it
Apparently not.
instead of like his friend from school becomes the fucking tinkerer and she's going after the evil energy corporation? but she's not doing it the right way. You got to go through the fucking police or whatever the fuck the point of that game was. Like, you just made Miles look like a bitch. Don't make Miles look like a bitch. Don't make Peter look like a bitch. Stop making people in these games look like bitches. Like, just completely impotent, ineffective motherfuckers. That's how they design these guys. And even to an extent, like, Mary Jane falls into it too, because, like, yeah, she can take down symbiotes, but then a cutscene happens and she gets shit canned. Or she's like running away. So why are you fucking giving me the Mary Jane sections where, like, she can shoot a symbiote with a sonic gun and take it down, but then the second the cutscene triggers, she can't hold her own anymore. She's got to run. Doesn't that kind of go against the whole point of the fucking gameplay segment that you just had me play? So it's
Yeah.
like, how many hours of fucking development time, how many millions of dollars to design these segments that you immediately shit on the second they're fucking over? Why am I not in charge of the budgets of these games? Give me $300 million to make a Wolverine game. I'll drop the greatest video game of all time. It'll just be X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Well, if you complain so much, why don't you do it yourself?
If anybody complained about that game, I would just send Hugh Jackman to their house to kick them in the balls.
You could make I'm trying to think.
And
What
also,
would
I
you
see
call
this
it?
coming a mile away because they're doing the Wolverine and Jean thing. They're gonna fucking
Listen,
make Cyclops look like a bitch.
listen. I want you to do your own Wolverine game.
Okay.
You're gonna do it unlicensed, and it's gonna be called Project Wolverine X.
All right. We just got to get somebody to fund this now.
Do you know what that's the initials are?
Yeah, PWX. I'm not dumb.
Yeah. And now you're gonna spend 20 years on this.
Do I get to fleece the Canadian government out of, like, funding too?
Well, I mean, you could try. I mean, Wolverine's Canadian. You can be like, "Hey, I'm developing this game with this Canadian character. Give me some money."
I'm developing a game based on a Canadian folk hero and icon.
Yeah, he's a Canadian legend. Don't you guys want to put some wing towards us? I'm sure they would.
I don't know. I mean, does the Canadian government throw money around as freely as the U.S. government? Like, they funded PWX once. So, yeah.
I guess so.
Dave's going to get really mad if he ever hears this, and I don't care.
Dave
I don't
sometimes
care, man.
replies to stuff on Twitter, but I don't think he actually listens.
Does he? I'm
Yep.
not on Twitter. So,
Yeah, I know, but he
I guess
sometimes responds to my posts, and I'm like, I wonder if he listens to the show. I don't think so.
if he does, he definitely doesn't listen deep enough into the show where I load up the PWX Facebook. And has he done a Wrestling Gamers United newsletter
I
recently?
don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, we're about to fucking find out, buddy, because we've hit the 3 hour mark in this motherfucker, and we're.
I think the last thing there was like another sign added or something that said something or other.
Am I blocked from the PWX Facebook page?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I'm not. Okay. Oh, I just unliked them years ago. So there's a screenshot of a bloody bald guy and a guy holding a hockey stick, and it says, "Put
That's
some
what it
fucking
was.
lumber in their teeth. Let them know you're there."
Yeah.
So right after the UPW announcement, he posted the "What would Aki do?" sign, and somebody replied to it. I don't know, but Aki is back thanks to Hyper Focus Games. But I think Aki would dominate Pro Wrestling X and run wild with that. Like, what does that even mean?
I have no idea.
What are we talking about here? Oh my god, PWX. PWX is as old now as I was when they did their last Kickstarter. Oh my god, man. We are old. We are fucking old.
Yeah, I I don't know what to say about BWX anymore. I don't know how it's
I
still.
don't think it's still going. It exists.
I mean, that's kind of my what I was gonna say. Like, I don't even know if it's just being updated to say something and then hopes that somebody will spy it on Steam. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't fucking know, man. That'll probably do us for this week.
Oh,
I can't
so
think of. Is there anything else? Oh, we
just
didn't preview the AEW pay per view.
do we have to?
Yeah, because I promised it last week,
Okay.
and I don't want it to be like how we promised pro wrestling or how wrestling for the Game Boy and pro wrestling for NES, and we never delivered on that because every time we did, the fucking recording was cursed, and we were just completely pissed on. Um, there are 4 matches for the pre-show tonight. We have Lee Johnson, who I can't remember the last time he was on AEW TV, and Blake Christian, who I can't remember the last time he was on AEW TV, taking
Ugh.
on Commander and Hologram. So outcome of that not in question. Daniel Garcia is teaming with Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong against Shane Taylor Promotions, which is Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, and I think the guys from the Infantry now. So here's my question, because I saw a segment from last night where Garcia and FTR were beefing with Cole, O'Reilly, and Roddy. Why is Garcia teaming with them?
I think at the end the Shane Taylor Promotions attacked all. I have no idea.
Yeah, but if you're that shitty with like Adam Cole and his friends, why would you agree to fucking team with them? Like that doesn't make any sense.
I
Um,
they have similar hairstyles. I don't know, except for Adam Cole.
Chris Jericho's defending the ROH World Title against Gravity, which is weird because it feels like he's in a constant struggle with Gravity to begin with. But also, like I thought Gravity got let go from his contract because that's Bandito's brother, I think, and it
I
was
think he was
rumored that he
injured.
wasn't with. Right, but I also remember somebody saying on Twitter like a year or so ago that he was like he wasn't under contract anymore. So who the hell knows? And then the main event of 0 Hour is a match that I really wish wasn't happening, and I really wish we'd stop giving the Italians so much attention. Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and the fucking creepy Costco guy are wrestling the MXM Collection and Johnny Nitro. I the Costco guy thing was funny 6 months ago. There's no fucking reason for this match to be happening. They're going to be conglomerating, so that's something. But like, this feels like the biggest waste of a pre-show you could do, even with an ROH title defense. Like, what does it matter? It's the fucking ROH title, and it's Chris Jericho in 2025. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
And then at 8 o'clock, the main card. So we've got the Hurt Syndicate, which is Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, taking on the Outrunners for the ROH World Tag Titles. All due respect to Bobby and Shelton, this feels like the moment. Like you got to give the fucking Outrunners the belts.
I don't think they will. I still see in my head the Hurt Syndicate against the Von Erichs and Dallas. Maybe that's just me.
I don't think anybody in AEW is thinking even remotely that long range, but that would be neat. Um, Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe for the TBS title. We've got Swerve and
You can't
Ricochet
skip a.
for.
Hey, hold on a second. You can't skip a Stardom talent like that.
I
We need to talk
know
about this.
nothing about her, and I
Oh,
don't care about
she's
Mercedes Moné. So
she's really good. I mean, she's been around for a long time. I mean, she was the one that sort of built up as the next big star, and like they sort of forgot about her, and she's been sort of stuck in the mid card for a while. But she's a really good talent. Um, it seems like a complete waste of that match from Wrestle Kingdom to have her lose, or Wrestle Dynasty to have her lose this match. But I don't see her winning, so it's sort of like, well, what's the point?
she can be on American TV one time, I guess.
And then people can bitch about it on Twitter, saying, "I don't know who this is. Where's the story? Yada yada."
But also, like, there was like never any chance that whoever was in that 4-way was going to actually win an AEW title.
No, but I feel like, but it just feels like a waste, right? Like it'd probably be a good match, but
I mean,
I don't
it's not
know.
a waste for Stardom. One of your talents are going to be on a like major American show in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah, but honestly, I would have preferred if she just challenged for a Stardom title, but it is what it is.
Then we have Ricochet and Swerve Strickland to see who does a job for whichever old fucker leads Revolution with the world title. The Swerve and Ricochet contract signing on Wednesday was brutal. Swerve did not seem very confident in a lot of the stuff he was saying. Ricochet was great in that
Bored.
segment, though.
Yeah, Swerve seemed
He,
bored.
I, I hope for his sake, if Swerve wins the fucking thing here, he like squashes whoever leaves tonight with the belt at Dynasty. Like, just let that be the thing every year, like how Sting would always win the title of Bound for Glory. Let Swerve win the belt at Dynasty.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Because like Swerve versus Osprey at All In with Okada and Omega as the semifinal, that'll get me to Dallas. Because I'm at this point looking for reasons not to go. Because I just Jesus Christ, this product. Um, we have Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita for the is that the international belt? Yeah, it's the international belt. They have fucking 500 titles, and I don't remember what half of them are called. This will be great. Their last match in 2023 was very good. I don't think it was 5 stars. To me, like 5 stars is a match that like 3 weeks later I'm gonna at least remember something from.
Yeah.
And a lot of matches that get rated that or higher now, I can't tell you a fucking thing about them. Like 3 days after they happen, much less 3 weeks. I'm imagining Kenny takes it. It makes all the sense in the world.
I think he wins as well, but I'd much prefer Kenny to be the world champion instead of the international.
Agreed.
If Takeshita had a longer reign and really had a good build of strong matches, he's another champion as well, right?
He's the never openweight champion, and he's done a wonderful job of not making me care about that belt too.
Yeah. Well, I think if he held 2 international titles, I mean, if he's international champion, and like had a string of matches, and they would build him up that way, just keep him looking strong, I think it'd be much better than him losing right now. But if they want to do Kenny and Okada to possibly merge the 2 titles, then just like the other match, it is what it is, I guess.
We've got Okada versus Brody King. Much like every other match on the show, the outcome is not in question. This will be good though. Okada's still that guy when he's given a singles match. Brody King, I enjoy a lot more now than I did when he was in Ring of Honor. He's been like both Continental Classics he's been in, which he's been in both, obviously. He's been like one of the like absolute top highlights of both tournaments. So this will be good. But again, I can't do anything to convince myself for even 2 seconds that Okada's not winning this match.
Yeah.
I just thought about the outcome of every match on the card. There's a couple that I think, like Hangman versus MJF. This could go either way. It is very interesting to me that they've seemingly just dropped the Jeff Jarrett thing with MJF.
Yeah, they certainly
Which,
did.
after that one segment in Cincinnati, goddamn, I would have too. Hangman Page is a lot of things. He is an exceedingly corny motherfucker, but when motivated, he can be very good. And everything I've seen from this little deal they're doing with him and MJF has been very, very good. I expect, if nothing else, this will be a good match. I with the number one contender thing being on Swerve and Ricochet, I don't know what you do for next month with these guys. Maybe you run it back with like a stipulation.
Yeah, I could see
But
that.
yeah, not sure. We have the Falls Count Anywhere, the Hollywood ending for Tony Storm and Mariah May, the women's title. I was over the Timeless Tony gimmick months and months ago before she lost the belt to Mariah. This is a match where it very easily can go either way, and I think both women are very talented. I could not care less who wins this. Somebody like one of these belts needs to be on Willow Nightingale, the other needs to be on Statlander.
Yeah, I see Tony winning, and I don't know what you do with Mariah because, since she's been in the promotion, it's been that storyline, right?
Yeah,
And when Tony wasn't there, it was like her title defenses outside of Mina, they didn't really do much. Like there wasn't much interest. It felt like her reign wasn't that great. So if Tony wins, then I don't know where you go with Mariah at that point. If
TBS belt.
Mina's coming back in, maybe you could do a thing where she's like begging her for forgiveness or whatever, and she still loves her or whatever. You could maybe continue with Mina. I don't know. That's assuming Mina comes back, but I don't know.
Then what I'm assuming might open the show, just because you're gonna want the big, like, the hot opener. We got Osprey and Fletcher in a steel cage. I have done a complete 180 on Fletcher. The Continental Classic, it's like he finally figured everything out. He has been tremendous the last few months. And I've softened a lot on Will Ospreay as well. I enjoyed a lot of stuff with him last year. I don't think best wrestler in the world, but I mean, I'm also not going to argue against it. I really loved that match with him and Fletcher at World's End, and the Continental Classic final with him and Okada was like ridiculous. I did see people getting mad at Dave saying Fletcher and Ospreay might have been the greatest pay-per-view opener ever. I think it's absolutely in the conversation with what I would consider to be the best, like Brett Owen, Mania 10, Sikosis Ray, Bash of the Beach 96, Balls and Masato Tanaka, Hardcore Heaven 2000. Like, those are, I would say Ospreay and Fletcher was better than at least two of those, but like it's in that conversation. If these guys go for it, because like, look, they both bled at World's End. I imagine they're both going to bleed here. This could be the best thing on the whole damn show, but it also highlights a problem. Why is this match not for the world title?
Yeah.
This, like, that little intertwining thing they've got going on with like Ospreay, Omega, Takeshita, and Fletcher. That should be your world title program. But guess what? It's not, because our main event of the evening for the AEW World Championship is Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland, Edge, Cope, whatever the fuck you want to call him. There is zero chance this match is good. There's zero. Like, if you find somebody on social media that thinks this match is good, you have found somebody who is part of like some sort of weird Russian psyop that I don't fully understand. This title reign, and I'm going to bang this home until we stop doing this show, I was right about all of it. I knew this was going to suck, and I said it the fucking day after Wrestle Dream, or the podcast we did after Wrestle Dream. He's not going to sell anything. He's going to take everybody's shit. He's going to kick out, beat them fucking flat. It's going to go nowhere. Nobody's going to get over. All of that has happened. And we're at the point now where people are like, they're happy with the idea of Edge winning and then Christian screwing Edge out of the belt. And then we get Edge and Christian for a world title in 2025. How the fuck did we get here?
Yeah, I don't have much interest in it. I mean, there's different ways they can go. They've been teasing, a sort of breakup between Yuta and Moxley, and maybe that's just a swerve. As you said, Christian could get involved. I don't really care.
I've said this before on the show. I'm pretty sure I'll say it again. After this Death Riders thing is over, every single person in that angle's got to go. I don't mean go away for a few months, because if you're Jon Moxley, how the fuck do you come back after this? He can't be a babyface ever again, because the hardcore fans don't like him now because this stuff has sucked so fucking much. As a babyface, he was treading in his own fucking piss. He wasn't even treading water. He was just sitting in a little kiddie pool full of fucking piss. Wasn't doing anything. His stuff all fucking sucked. Even when he was motivated with like the Hangman stuff, like, yeah, there's the really good match from Dayton and the fucking Texas Death Match, but like, look at the rest of 2023 and like all of 2024. There was a little bit of juice there in 2019, and like, oh, the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Kenny Omega would have had higher numbers, which was proven when Kenny beat him for the belt. Like, Jon Moxley is not an integral piece of that company anymore. He can fucking go be part of the Shield reunion. It'll be fine. Claudio? How the fuck does Claudio come back?
I have no idea.
Pac's been under contract for 6 years. He's been on television for like 18 months of that 6 years. Like, let him go. And granted, when Pac's around, he's fucking awesome. Like, he's great. But he's around so infrequently, and he's part of it. Like, who gives a shit? If Pac's gone, does anybody notice? He's been gone most of the time. And like, Marina Shafir's like the only one you might be able to fucking rehab, because like this whole time she hasn't had any matches, which you could, read as a good thing. But like, now you have like she's been built up as their fucking China. When she comes back, there's obviously the potential for the Willow Nightingale match, and you can kind of use her in a capacity because she's been featured so prominently where she could be in the mix for a title. But like, it's fucking what? Where does Yuta go from here? Any interesting character progression that they had coming out of fucking All Out is gone now. It's just gone. Any subtlety that character had where he was like really conflicted, and then they did the sit down interview with Nigel and he was just full of shit. That's all gone now. He's just a dude in that group. Let him go. Like, I hate to say it this way, but like those guys, Edge, Christian, Jericho, we've surpassed the need for all of these motherfuckers. Let them go back to WWE. It doesn't like you're handing WWE a bunch of people that would be high fucking value contracts. Let them go. You have all of these like really good young fucking talents that could be fucking used. And Bix and Zellner apparently have been saying it, especially Zellner on Between the Sheets, like there's just the two big dark clouds hanging over the show. It's the Death Riders and Jericho. Get rid of that shit. Just get rid of it. And like I've seen people saying, well, like they could have Nick Wayne break off from Christian. Who gives a fuck? Nick Wayne's had like 7 matches since he signed with AEW. I'm being facetious. It's been more than that. But like he was a rapidly improving prodigy on the indies. He has fucking done nothing. They've completely stagnated his fucking progress. And he had like legitimate top star potential when they signed him. Like by the time this guy's in his late 20s, he could be the guy. That's gone. That's fucking gone now. It's insane to me. Like I know I do the Moxley rant every week. I don't fucking care. I like AEW a lot more than I don't. And I just wish we could get back to like consistently good television programming. And I love how everybody's like, well, I just watch the pay-per-views because the pay-per-views are good. Okay, well, let's look at the last pay-per-view, World's End. Very good show, and then you had that main event. That's the fucking problem. You can have the best undercard, but when you're getting the modern equivalent of the fucking 03 Triple H Reign of Terror, except nowhere near as good, because Moxley's not as good of a worker as Triple H, and I don't even think Triple H is particularly fucking good a lot of the time. Like, that's what you got. Like, when you have to sit through that at the end, is it really a great show? People remember the finish more than they remember anything else, and if you have a shitty fucking main event, that's the one thing that's going to stick with people. And have you noticed, we haven't been getting buy rate estimates for AEW shows anymore. Wonder why that is. I fucking wonder. Anyway. It looks like I have the next 2 weekends off, so we'll be able to do weekly recordings the next couple of weeks, potentially.
Okay. Just a few things I wanted to bring up. This is another Stardom-related thing. So Mike has been announced for Bloodsport. I didn't know this, but she was a judoka, so that should be cool. And it looks like she's going to be on the Stardom show in Las Vegas, so that's neat. Another thing, we didn't bring this up last week, but Osamu Nishimura passed away. And this was a week after
Did he pass away before we recorded last week?
Yes, he did.
Now I feel bad. I love Nishimura.
I was going to bring it up, and I completely forgot when we actually recorded the episode. I was listening to Wrestling Observer, and someone had told Brian Alvarez it was Shinsuke Nakamura's brother had passed away, because I guess he said on Twitter like Nishimura was like an older brother to him, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, it's not his brother. Nishimura was a guy that I used to consider like Tatsumi Fujinami Jr. because he had that like old Muga style. Obviously worked Muga shows. He dressed like a young lion with the black trunks and boots. And yes, we wore blue in like the 90s. I don't know why I went back to that specifically, but he was a guy that represented the sort of old style, and obviously was very loyal to Dory Funk Jr., who trained him, and he went to he did like bang shows for Dory with Missy Hyatt as his manager at one point, funny enough. And of course, earlier this year, him and Dory teamed against Onita, and I forget who his partner was on that FMWE show. He's been sick for it seems like a number of years. He had was cancer, I believe. Yeah, it's very sad. Gone too young. Was always an entertaining wrestler. It was cool when he came back and went to All Japan. Was working with them. He was having some good matches there. And yeah, it's just a shame.
So I'm gonna wax poetic, I suppose, a little bit about Nishimura. He is the kind of wrestler that does not exist anymore, in that
No,
he
definitely
just
not.
wrestled no gimmick at all.
Yeah.
Um, when I first got into New Japan, one of the things I first saw was the Tokyo Dome match with him and Suzuki from Wrestling World '04, which is about 8 minutes, I want to say. If you have access to New Japan World, you have no excuse not to watch it. That match is fucking awesome. It's just straight grappling, just really like super slick. Like somebody on Twitter that used to be mutuals with me called it like the Sith versus Jedi match,
Hmm.
and yeah, it is. He wrestles Takayama in the O2 G1, and that is the closest thing to Takayama versus Inoki you'll ever see. Like that, I know a lot of people. A mutual on Blue Sky mentioned the Fujinami match. I think that's from like '06. That match is amazing. He has a match with Kawada and Muga that's great, but my favorite Nishimura match is that Takayama match because it feels like the closest we got to see to him realizing what he wanted to be as a pro wrestler, because he wrestled a lot more like Inoki than he did Fujinami, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of Fujinami in there. But watching him kind of guide Takayama around that match, like it's a masterful performance. Also, there's the Akiyama match from the '03 G1, which I think is actually free on New Japan World right now, so you really have no excuse not to go watch it. That match is fantastic. He has an IWGP title match against Nagata, which I think that's the match where he doesn't wear boots. He has like his feet taped up. That match is incredible. I'm pretty sure he's one of the Kawada challengers in Kawada's big title reign. That match is incredible. Nishimura is a guy that it felt like a very small sect of the Western pro wrestling fandom appreciated for a long time. And then as time went on, people started to appreciate him a little bit more. But there were people that absolutely would fucking project like he's really boring. He just does limb work and he wrestles. And this is the era where everybody's fucking shooting rope to like guys getting dumped on their heads. So I guess I understand why that would be boring. But like Nishimura's matches were thrilling in a completely different way. He he made the wrestling part the focus instead of like dangerous bumps or like long elaborate finishes or whatever. It was just wrestling matches. I've talked about this a bunch on the show. When I play King of Colosseum 2, one of my absolute favorite things to do is to pick Nishimura and wrestle the other technical guys. Like I can kill an entire 20-minute car ride to work with one match as Nishimura in that game. It's amazing. And also Nishimura is one of the reasons I think KOC2 is one of the best wrestling games ever. If not, it is the best wrestling game ever because no other game does that style of wrestling anywhere near as well. And Nishimura is proof of that. Fujinami is proof of that. Dory Funk Jr. is proof of that. Like you can have like actual old school technical wrestling matches in that game.
Yeah.
And my hope is, and I'm sorry we didn't bring this up last week. For some reason, I thought Nishimura died like Tuesday because I intended to bring that up and then I fucking forgot about it while I was rambling about things that didn't matter with AEW. But underrated gets thrown around a lot, like a lot. Like especially for guys like Josh Alexander from TNA posted a picture of Morishima once with just underrated as the caption, and it's like maybe now because not a lot of people talk about him, but like there was a point where people considered Morishima the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
That's not an underrated guy. I feel like Nishimura was underrated in his own time, and especially now. And my hope, while they still have the free matches up on New Japan World, or even just kick him the $10 and search his name, you're not going to find a really bad match with him on there. Like relentlessly consistent, incredibly talented, sadly overlooked. There's '90s Muga shows floating around where he like teams with Fujinami in the main event. It's like a tag match. One of them's against like Hisakatsu Oya from FMW, which if you ask me to make a best wrestlers from FMW list, Oya is like top 5, and the word Hayabusa is not in there at all. Guys like Oya get overlooked for no reason. That's a story for another time. I do like Hayabusa, but like FMW was more than him. There are a lot of guys that were just better. But that's again story for another time. Nishimura fucking ruled. Like, seek out every piece of footage you can with him. We need more people wrestling like Nishimura and less people trying to wrestle like the guys that are currently on TV. And that goes for Japan too. Like, we need more people wrestling like Yoshinari Ogawa and Osamu Nishimura, and then maybe we can get back to Japanese wrestling being what it was. But yeah, I didn't mean to get kind of depressed on that.
Well, there's another unfortunate death I want to bring up too. Nothing wrestling related and quite a different topic, but George Lowe, who voiced Space Ghost on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, also passed away. If you're like a younger person who hasn't experienced that show, you need to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It is crazy, it's surreal, it's bizarre, and it was unlike. I remember watching it when I was a kid because I think they showed it on TBS sometimes late at night, like really late at night. And I would just watch it, and I don't know if I really got it at the time. I was just like, this is weird and crazy. But when I would watch it when I was old, I was like, hilarious, and his Space Ghost is fantastic. There's some great stuff on there with Randy Savage, and the interviews were always very entertaining and silly and goofy. So yeah, if you're not a Space Ghost fan, go and check that stuff out because it's excellent.
I remember the night before my cousin's wedding in 2002, I couldn't sleep because it was the first time in years I'd tried to like sleep in a hotel, and I was used to my own bed. And we had I turned on Cartoon Network thinking Ed, Ed and Eddie might be on at like 2:30, and that show was on, and I think Johnny Quest was on like right after that. I don't know why I remember this, but yeah, whenever I saw like on the channel guide, like if I was flipping through, if I saw that shit on, I'd turn that on. It was a funny show. I remember there were action figures of it in like Toy Fair in the late '90s too.
And stuff
Maybe it
like
was 2000.
Space Ghost is like responsible for what Adult Swim ended up being.
Yeah,
With shows like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It was the type of show when I would watch it was like couldn't turn it off because it was just so crazy, and it's like I don't know where they're gonna go with this, and the animations are reused and awkward, and it's this like 1970s superhero or whatever. It's so strange. It was such a strange idea, but it's to me it's become like so iconic. I love that show, and I need to break out those DVDs now. So
TV
yeah,
used to be better.
yes, it's two unfortunate deaths we've had recently, and obviously to go with Grand Hamada. So sad times.
Shout outs to Gran Hamada also.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was good. His daughter deserved better.
Yes.
So yeah, next week we'll be back. We'll talk shit on a variety of topics. I don't know when we're gonna loop back around to a game being our main topic, but it'll happen eventually, I'm sure. Um, but until then, like take care, play video games, read comics, don't be an asshole, and punch Nazis in the face.
One, two, three.